Chapter 671. Lin Tianyi was shocked. Yin Yip had an immortal spirit body? He had heard from Bai Qiu that the immortal spirit body was naturally close to the Great Path and could be said to be the carrier of the Great Path. In terms of the comprehension and control of the Great Path, it had an advantage over any other king body. Please search Taste Book Yin Network to see the most complete. Moreover, once the immortal spirit body was completed, it would be even more terrifying. The body and the Great Path would be merged, and one would be almost invincible. No wonder she always gives people a peaceful feeling. So she has an immortal spirit body. He muttered to himself. How about it, kid? Do you have an idea? An old drunkard chuckled and said, if you and her become husband and wife, after that, your life source will become stronger, your divine power will be purer, and your perception of the Great Path will be sharper. If you and her have a child, needless to say, the child will be a super monster and will be able to leave his peers far behind. Since the Desolate Era, it has been recognized in the cultivation world that a woman with an immortal spirit body is the perfect candidate for the Great Path. Lin Tian was shocked again. So powerful. An old drunkard chuckled. Are you tempted? Lin Tian was speechless. Your smile is too wretched. After a pause, he continued to squint at an old drunkard. Also, I'm just a little surprised. As tempted as you said, I'm not tempted at all. I already have a girl I like. This time, it was an old drunkard's turn to squint at him. Is there only one girl you like now? Lin Tian. Awkward. Speechless. On the path of cultivation, it's not a big deal to have a few more beauties. It's normal. An old drunkard continued. Let's not talk about this. I'll continue. Listen carefully. That clairvoyant is the successor of Tianjizi. This lineage's ancient scriptures are not suitable for battle, but they can really deduce the secrets of the heavens. They can know things that are difficult for others to know and can influence many things. For example, when you were being hunted down by the Seven Luminaries Empire before, if the Oracle had really divined your location for the Seven Luminaries Empire, you wouldn't have been able to escape no matter what. They would have known everything about you like an eye placed on you. However, there is always a price to pay for deducing things one doesn't know. At most, as one's technique and cultivation become stronger, the price they pay will become smaller and smaller. However, no matter how small the price they pay is, even if it's so small that it's negligible, there will always be a price to pay. Therefore, people of this lineage often don't have a good ending. They pry into too many things and are at odds with the Tao. An old drunkard said, that girl is the disciple of the clairvoyant, and also the successor of the Tianjizi lineage. In the future, she will also control and cultivate the Tao of Tianjizi, but an old drunkard narrowed his eyes and said, she's different from the other people of the Tianjizi lineage. The immortal spirit body is naturally close to the Tao and can be called a carrier of the Tao. She's the darling of the Tao. If she controls the Tao of Tianjizi, she won't have to pay any price. Once her imperial body is close to completion, she won't have any problems divining the ancient celestial lords. She won't have any problems divining the ancient celestial lords without using her imperial body? She won't have to pay any price? Lin Tianyi was shocked. No, her qi and blood won't be consumed. An old drunkard said. Lin Tian was shocked. He was really shocked. He thought that the clairvoyant's Tao of divination should be very strong, but when he divined some things, it would consume his qi and blood. As for divining the ancient celestial lords, he had asked the clairvoyant, but the clairvoyant said that he couldn't do it. Even if he could, he wouldn't dare to do it. The price would be death, and it might even bring disaster to future generations. Because people who reached the level of the ancient celestial lords were imprinted in the 3,000 Great Tao. If one tried to forcibly deduce things related to such people, even if it was just a small deduction, it would cause dissatisfaction with the Great Tao and bring disaster to the world. But now, an old drunkard said that as long as Yin Yip was close to the completion of her imperial body, she would be able to deduce the ancient celestial lords without consuming her qi and blood. How sharp was that? How terrifying was that? If that was the case, wouldn't Yin Yip be able to deduce everything at will in the future? Wasn't the Tao of Tianjizi created for the immortal spirit body? Are you surprised? That's why I said that if you were to marry her, the benefits would be unimaginable. Not only would her physique benefit you greatly and bring good fortune to your descendants, but her Tao of Tianjizi can also help you cultivate better, an old drunkard said. As the carrier of the Tao, the true darling of the great Tao, it's not just for show. To put it simply, the great Tao can be compared to the mistress of a courtyard. When other people deduce things, it's the same as entering the courtyard to steal. The more complicated and mysterious the things they deduce, the more precious the things they steal. Naturally, the greater the anger of the great Tao will be. As for the immortal spirit body, as the darling of the great Tao, it's the same as being the daughter of the mistress of the courtyard. When the immortal spirit body deduces things, it's the same as taking something from her own home. It's the same as doing something bad. Thus, although the mistress of the courtyard will be angry, how could she be severely punished? After all, a mother won't kill her own daughter. An old drunkard said, "Is my analogy vivid enough? It's easy to understand, right?" Lin Tian nodded. When an old drunkard put it this way, it was indeed easy for people to understand. Speaking of which, that clairvoyant master has found a good successor. He can let the heavenly mystery and divine divination return to its former glory. An old drunkard smiled and said to Lin Tiandao, "Oh right, the founder of the heavenly mystery and divine divination master is the immortal spirit body." What? Lin Tianyi was shocked. The heavenly mystery and divine divination master was created by the immortal spirit body. He was shocked, but he calmed down after a while. The heavenly mystery and divine divination master, created by the immortal spirit body, was very appropriate and easy. How is it, kid? Your master has said so much. Are you tempted now? There are many benefits. An old drunkard hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck and said, "Don't say you're not tempted. Don't deny it. Work hard and marry that girl." Lin Tian. He couldn't be bothered to argue with this old guy about this. Okay. I'll listen to you," he said perfunctorily. An old drunkard nodded and said with a smile, "Good boy." Lin Tian's forehead was full of black lines. After a pause, he thought of something and asked, "Old man, have you really killed someone with a great accomplishment king physique?" Nirvana Ghost Saint was terrifying and far beyond human cultivators of the same level, but in the end, it was only in the category of terrifying. However, the great accomplishment king physique was truly a terrifying existence. Each and every one of them could sweep through the 8 desolations. The old drunkard claimed that he killed a great accomplishment king physique a year ago. This was simply too outrageous. Even now, he still felt a chill run down his back when he thought about it. An old drunkard nodded. "Yes, I have." Lin Tian knew that an old drunkard wouldn't joke about this kind of thing, but at this moment, he still felt very shocked when he heard it again. A great accomplishment king physique. He blinked and asked, "Why did you fight?" As a disciple, how could he not be curious when his master was fighting with someone with a great accomplishment king physique? An old drunkard's eyes flashed with a faint light. Then he smiled and moved his hand away from Lin Tian's neck. He stretched out his right hand, and a soft ball of light appeared. A woman was lying in the middle of it. She had a beautiful face, but her eyes were tightly closed. Her body was very faint, and it was obvious that she was just a soul shadow and didn't have a physical body. "This is?" Lin Tian Wei was puzzled. An old drunkard was no longer lazy, and the light in his eyes was very gentle. "Xian I found her remnant soul." Lin Tianyi trembled. "Xian He remembered what the Grand Elder of the Burning Sun sect had told him. His daughter was called Qing Xian, and she was supposed to be an old drunkard's wife. She had died in the Demon Burial Valley during the trial of the 4 gates. Now, after more than 100 years, an old drunkard had found Qing Xian's remnant soul. "Congratulations, master." He was overjoyed. An old drunkard had been dispirited for more than 100 years because of his lover's death, and he had been drinking to drown his sorrows. Now, not only had he gotten his revenge, he had even found his lover's remnant soul. How could he not be happy for an old drunkard? An old drunkard was his master, and the person he respected the most in his life. This woman, although it was the first time he had seen her, was an old drunkard's lover's wife. Now it seemed that this woman could be saved. How could he not be happy? An old drunkard smiled, and the light in his palm slowly entered his body. He carefully kept it. I found her remnant soul in the death palace of the extreme Een temple. At that time, because her remnant soul was too weak, I needed the weak water essence to nourish it, so I went to the weak water river. After I got the weak water essence, someone wanted to snatch it away, so I killed him. Lin Tian nodded. He didn't need to think to know that the person who wanted to snatch an old drunkard's weak water essence should be that person with the great completion king physique. So that was the reason for that battle. He deserved to be killed. He said, the weak water essence was a treasure that an old drunkard found to nourish his lover's remnant soul. This thing, there was actually someone who dared to snatch it. An old drunkard slapped Lin Tian's palm and returned to his usual appearance. Boy, I have to do other things soon. Do you have any doubts about cultivation or other doubts? If I know, I will tell you. Do other things? Lin Tianwei was puzzled. An old drunkard nodded. In order for Qing Xian to really come back, I have to find other things. I'll go with you. Lin Tian's expression was serious. I also want to do my part for Master's wife. An old drunkard was taken aback, and then laughed. He slapped Lin Tianyi again. I suddenly feel that you have become cute. Saying this, an old drunkard shook his head. However, there is no need. Those places are not where you can go now. It's too dangerous. Lin Tian opened his mouth. Thinking about it, with his current cultivation, there were some terrifying places that he could not go. Moreover, an old drunkard could probably do it with just a lift of his finger. An old drunkard, if he really went with an old drunkard, not only would he not be able to help, but he might even drag an old drunkard down. Don't think too much. An old drunkard smiled. Come, what doubts do you have? Chapter 672. Lin Tian knew that with an old drunkard's strength, he must have been to a higher heaven. He will go to the fourth heaven in the future. Now, he wants to know more about the upper heavens so that he won't be at a loss when he goes there. An old drunkard smiled and said, What do you mean by you want to know about the upper heavens? The distribution of forces and the highest combat power. Lin Tian nodded. Old drunkard nodded and said, Since you are going to the fourth heaven soon, let's talk about it. There are many major races in this heaven, including the ant race, the bone race, the barbarian race, the sound race, the insect race, the witch race, the wind race, the sea race, the snow race, the giant race, the holy light race, the dark shadow race, the blood wolf race, the stone god race, the angel race, etc. Among the major races, the angel race and the holy light race are the proudest. The ant race and the insect race are the cruelest. The sea race and the dark shadow race are the most hated. The bone race and the witch race are the most insidious. The giant race and the stone god race are the most belligerent. The barbarian race and the wind race are the most heroic, and the sound race and the snow race are the most gentle. By the way, these two races have many beautiful women. Lin Tian, you don't have to add the last sentence, he said. An old drunkard laughed. Next, let's talk about the strength of the major races. Among them, the angel race, the stone god race, and the white saint race are the strongest. They are the three most powerful races in the fourth heaven, and their heritage is very deep. After saying that, an old drunkard continued. Among these three races, the angel race has wings on their back and is very proud. The stone god race is born with a strong physique, and most of them are very domineering. The holy light race is a human race, and they have inherited the holy light technique, which is said to be able to purify everything. These three major races are the first level of power in the fourth heaven. The second level of power is the bone race, the witch race, the wind race, the sea race, and the giant race. The third level includes the ant clan, the insect clan, the sound clan, the dark shadow clan, the blood wolf clan, the barbarian clan, the snow clan, and many other major cultivation clans. The 100 races compete for supremacy, and each race usually has a branch clan that occupies the four corners of the world. When the time comes, you will know when you go. An old drunkard said. Lin Tian was a little lost in thought as he listened. Hundreds of races competing against each other. It seems that the fourth heaven is simply a prosperous world for cultivation. What about the higher realms? he asked. An old drunkard smiled and said, I won't talk about the heavens above the fourth heaven for the time being. It's useless to talk about it. It will only affect your cultivation in the fourth heaven. Lin Tian. All right, he said, then let's talk about the strongest forces of the various heavens. This won't affect anything. Highest combat power? An old drunkard asked, what is your so-called highest combat power? In other words, what is the level of the strongest person in each heaven? He said, silly disciple, your question is meaningless. I can't answer it. An old drunkard raised his hand and directly slapped Lin Tianyi, saying with a smile, are you thinking now that the strongest person in the four great sects of the first heaven is at the airborne realm? In the second heaven, the strongest people in the several holy lands are at the great Tao realm. In the third heaven, the strongest people in the top few dynasties are at the first layer of Wuzhen realm. So, are you thinking that the strongest person in the fourth heaven is at the peak of Wuzhen realm? Even to the extent that he has already attained the rebirth stage? Lin Tian. He did think so, but he felt that it was strange, so he asked this question. An old drunkard said, what you think is the strongest is just the strength on the surface. You forgot that in the first heaven, there was me, the four sealed monster gods, and even an emperor. In addition, in the second heaven, the strongest isn't just at the great Tao realm. Besides, in the third heaven, an old drunkard's eyes flashed with a faint light as he casually glanced in a certain direction. In this world, the strongest person is far beyond the Wuzhen realm. This, Lin Tianyi was shocked. Listening to an old drunkard's words, he suddenly realized that his question was really stupid. When he was in the first heaven, he saw the power of an old drunkard and the four ancient monster gods. At the same time, when he was in the dark forest, he also saw the power of the purple elves. It was very terrifying. In the second heaven, the nether demon dragon was also a variable. In addition, in the third heaven, the owner of the pair of eyes in the immortal demon ancient vein is definitely at the chaos realm. An old drunkard smiled and said, I can only tell you that the higher you go, the more powerhouses there will be, the more geniuses there will be, and the more opportunities there will be. Of course, the challenges you will face will be more difficult, the competition you will face will be more intense, and the battles you will face will be more brutal. Naturally, under such circumstances, you will experience challenges and battles again and again. You will walk faster and farther on the path of cultivation. Lin Tian nodded and said, I understand. Well, the child is worth teaching. Good boy. An old drunkard rubbed Lin Tian's head. Lin Tian's forehead was filled with black lines. An old drunkard laughed. I can't tell you the so-called strongest cultivator in each heaven. Even for some superpowers on the surface, it's hard to say. There are many variables. However, there is one thing that is fixed, and that is the minimum level of cultivation required to go to the higher heavens. I can tell you this in advance. Let's not mention the 3 heavens that you have already passed. From the 3rd heaven to the 4th heaven, you need to be at least at the early stage of a mortal connecting realm. From the 4th heaven to the 5th heaven, you need to be at least at the half-step Great Tao realm. From the 5th heaven to the 6th heaven, you need to be at least at the half-step Enlightenment realm. From the 7th heaven to the 8th heaven, you need to be at least at the Enlightenment realm. From the 8th heaven to the 9th heaven, you need to be at least at the half-step Nirvana realm. To put it simply, when you reach the half-step Nirvana realm, you can go anywhere in the 9 heavens. An old drunkard said, a half-step Nirvana realm can go anywhere in the 9 heavens? Lin Tian was surprised. Yes. An old drunkard nodded. Lin Tian was a little surprised. In the past, he thought that one had to be at least at the Nirvana realm or even the Chaos realm to enter the 9 heavens. He did not expect that a half-step Nirvana realm was enough. As for the half-step Grand Tao, half-step Enlightenment, and half-step Rebirth that the old drunkard spoke of, Qinshi naturally understood what they were. The half-step Grand Tao meant that one was only half a step away from stepping into the Grand Tao realm. Moreover, one already possessed some of the abilities of a Grand Tao realm expert. For example, a half-step Great Tao expert would already have a weak fluctuation of Tao laws. This was something that a 9th-level immortal connecting realm expert did not have. In terms of battle strength, it was naturally different. A half-step great Dao expert could kill a 9th-level immortal connecting realm expert with a raise of his hand. Moreover, he had fought with 9th-level immortal connecting realm experts and half-step great Dao experts before, so he knew very well. After digesting a little, he paused and asked, I know that since ancient times, no one has reached the 10th heaven. May I ask, is there a space-time portal that leads to the 10th heaven above the 9th heaven? No. An old drunkard shook his head and said, from the primeval times until now, ancient legends say that if one wants to enter the 10th heaven, one can only break the barrier of the 10th heaven with absolute strength and forcefully tear open a space-time portal. Lin Tian nodded and then shook his head. Forcefully breaking the barrier of the 10th heaven and tearing open a space-time portal. How difficult was such a thing? As he thought about it, his eyes suddenly flashed with a bright light. No matter how difficult it was, he must break the barrier of the 10th heaven. In this life, he would not waste his time. In this life, he would stand at the peak and attain immortality. An old drunkard obviously saw the change in his expression and scolded jokingly, Kid, look at your eyes. It's as if you're saying, wait for me in the 10th heaven. I'm coming. Lin Tian, this old guy, how can you make fun of me like this? An old drunkard laughed again. After a while, he calmed down and asked, do you have any other questions? Lin Tian thought about it and shook his head. There was nothing else to ask. An old drunkard smiled, stood up, and casually glanced at the Shun continent. In this Shun continent, there seems to be a big force that's targeting you. As he said, an old drunkard waved his hand, and a divine talisman condensed from divine power appeared. He casually threw it to Lin Tian. There's some power that I left in it. I'll lend it to you. It can last for about 2 hours. Lin Tian took the divine talisman and scanned it with his divine sense. He was shocked. In this palm-sized divine talisman, he felt a vast power like the ocean, which made his heart tremble. Don't look at it. It's enough for you to kill anyone under the Wuzhen realm. But don't forget, it can only last for 2 hours. An old drunkard said, Understood. Lin Tian nodded and carefully put away the divine talisman. An old drunkard smiled, hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck, and looked at the scorching sun in the distance. After a dozen breaths, he spoke again. Good disciple, I don't know when we'll meet again. In this 9 heavens domain, go on an expedition and fight for a piece of glory that belongs to you. Lin Tian nodded and also looked into the distance. The next time we meet, I hope to see a bright and healthy mistress. We will. An old drunkard smiled. The next moment, Lin Tian felt that the strength of the arm pressing on his neck was gone. An old drunkard disappeared silently. He stood there quietly for a long time, then turned and left, quickly disappearing into the horizon. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Lin Tian stood on the peak of a purple mountain and used a special method to transmit his voice. The entire 7 luminaries empire has lost all their cultivation. Friends who have been bullied by this lineage in the Shun continent, now is the time for revenge. He used a divine technique to transmit his voice. It was loud and distant, and in the blink of an eye, it spread far and wide and was heard by every cultivator. For a moment, the entire Shun continent was shocked. The entire 7 luminaries empire, which had overlooked the Shun continent for countless years, lost all their cultivation. How is it possible? Who shouted that? Is it a rumor? Many people questioned. Chapter 673. The entire Shun continent was shocked. Everyone was stunned. The huge 7 luminaries empire had looked down on Shun continent for so many years, but now, everyone's cultivation base had disappeared. How is this possible? This was a joke. This voice, it sounds like that Lin Tian. Very similar. Isn't the 7 luminaries empire hunting him down? He's not trying to cause trouble, is he? Someone was surprised. It's possible. 7 luminaries empire. Everyone's cultivation base disappeared. This is too ridiculous. It's simply nonsense. That's right. But that Lin Tian, it seems like that Lin Tian was the one who said it. I feel like it's possible. Should we go and take a look? Most people did not believe it, but there were still many who were skeptical. Let's go and take a look. Someone gritted his teeth. On this day, many cultivators approached the seven luminaries' empire cautiously. There were powerful, immortal ascension cultivators among them. These people appeared to be very cautious. Soon, they arrived at the seven luminaries' empire's location. They spread out their divine consciousness and scanned the seven luminaries' empire's territory. Very soon, many people trembled and revealed shocked expressions. Wherever the divine will swept across, there seemed to be no divine power ripples in the seven luminaries' empire's territory. Not even vital essence ripples could be detected. Moreover, at this time, when some immortal-reaching realm cultivators looked inside, they actually saw that many people of this lineage had panicked expressions. They were actually running out of the clan from afar in the opposite direction. Could it be true? The cultivators who came to this place were all shocked when they saw this scene. Their hearts all skipped a beat. These people were shocked and quickly approached the front of the seven luminaries' empire's territory. They were still more than 100 feet away from the main gate, but they did not dare to get too close. After all, this was the seven luminaries' empire. Although they could not sense any divine power or vital essence fluctuation in this territory, many people were still very wary. After about 10 breaths, some people who had a great grudge against the seven luminaries' empire gritted their teeth and finally could not help but rush over. They unleashed their killing lights from afar. "How dare you?" Someone shouted sternly from within the seven luminaries' empire. However, killing light flew past in the blink of an eye. With a pu sound, this person's head was removed easily. Moreover, when the beam of killing light flew past, the other seven luminaries' clan members in the vicinity also suffered a great calamity. They all died tragically under the beam of killing light. This, unable to resist? He really has no cultivation? It's true. Everyone was moved. At this time, these people finally believed that the people of the seven luminaries' empire had really lost all their cultivation. Immediately, someone laughed out loud. "To think that you would have such a day. Back then, you bullied my sect and caused the death of my junior brother. Now don't think that you'll have a good life. I'll kill you all." In the past, my companions and I found a treasure in a land of treasures, but it was forcefully snatched away by your seven luminaries' empire. My companions were all killed by you, and I was the only one who luckily escaped. I hate it, you bastards. Someone growled. For a moment, cold light and sword light flashed. Many people moved and rushed into the seven luminaries' empire. "You know. Stop. You dare to do this? Ants you." "Ah!" Screams sounded in an instant. Only 3 days had passed since the old drunkard had crippled the seven luminaries' empire. It was naturally impossible for the people of the seven luminaries' empire to leave the clan. Almost everyone stayed in the clan, thinking about what they should do next. Now, such a large group of cultivators forced their way in and attacked mercilessly. These people all met with death. One must know that they were equivalent to mortals now. Go! Charge in! Outside the seven luminaries' empire, many people from Shin continent had arrived. At this time, everyone rushed into the seven luminaries' empire. Among these people, some had grudges with the seven luminaries' empire, while some had no grudges with the seven luminaries' empire. However, this did not stop these people from taking the opportunity to rob the seven luminaries' empire. As the saying went, everyone kicks a man when he is down. Bloody light exploded in the seven luminaries' empire. Some people who had grudges with the seven luminaries' empire were merciless. To think that you would have such a day. A bunch of F**king trash. Aren't you all high and mighty normally? What happened now? Come on, stand up and show off your strength. Someone sneered. At the same time, many people rushed into the seven luminaries' empire to snatch various resources. Although the treasures of the seven luminaries' empire were taken away by an old drunkard and given to Lin Tian, the remaining small items were still very attractive to many ordinary cultivators. When these cultivators rushed in, they really did not leave any traces behind. Even the jade stones inlaid in the halls of the seven luminaries' empire were taken away. Ah! The people of the Seven Luminaries Empire screamed and roared. In the end, there were only two words left in their hearts. Lin Tian. Someone roared with resentment. All of this was because of Lin Tian. All of this was because of Lin Tian. You still dare to roar? Kill them. Kill. Many people who had grudges with the Seven Luminaries Empire had cold expressions. They were merciless and even cruel. The bloody light continued to explode in the Seven Luminaries clan for a few hours. After a few hours, the Seven Luminaries clan was filled with blood and corpses were scattered everywhere. Some of the palaces had collapsed. It was a miserable sight. Then, the news once again swept the world like a wave. The Seven Luminaries Empire was destroyed. Everyone's cultivation had really disappeared. They were all killed. In the Shun continent, everyone in the cultivation world was shocked. One of the three great empires, the Seven Luminaries Empire that had overlooked this territory for countless years, was actually destroyed in a day. A large group of cultivators worked together to destroy an empire? No. It has nothing to do with these cultivators. All of this is related to that Lin Tian. It was that Lin Tian who said that everyone in the Seven Luminaries Empire had lost their cultivation. And everyone in the Seven Luminaries Empire had indeed lost their cultivation. This matter definitely has something to do with that Lin Tian. The Seven Luminaries Empire was not destroyed in the hands of those cultivators who killed the Seven Luminaries Empire, but in the hands of that Lin Tian. This, it seems to be the case. Then, that Lin Tian, what did he do before this? Many people were shocked. Just a moment ago, the Seven Luminaries Empire was still chasing Lin Tian all over the world. But then, Lin Tian stood out and said that everyone in the Seven Luminaries Empire had lost their cultivation. He led a large group of cultivators to go there and then killed everyone in the Seven Luminaries Empire. All of this was Lin Tian's people. It was Lin Tian who had destroyed the huge Seven Luminaries Empire. Thinking of all these, many cultivators couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. What a terrifying man! Many people shuddered. On this day, the entire Shun continent was shaken, including the Purple Clouds Empire and the Great Zhou Empire. Even the grandmasters of these two clans were alarmed and could not sit still. One must know that the Seven Luminaries Empire was a great lineage like them. All clansmen, remember, do not provoke this person in the future. The Grandmaster of the Great Zhou Empire walked out and personally ordered the entire royal family. Almost at the same time, the Grandmaster of the Purple Clouds Empire came out of his retreat. When he learned that the Xia siblings were on good terms with Lin Tian, a faint smile appeared on his face. Good. We must maintain a friendly relationship with this young man. 12 Taoist sects inside the Ascension sect, after hearing the news that spread outside, the disciples, deacons, ordinary elders, and the 12 reclusive elders of the Ascension sect were all stunned. Even Lu Wuwei, who was as strong as a great Dao realm cultivator, was also stunned after hearing this news. He could not calm down for a long time. Because of Lin Tian, the huge Seven Luminaries Empire was actually destroyed. This brat, Ling Yun's eyes widened, and he was almost petrified. Shui Yi woke up from her cultivation and naturally heard the news from the outside world. Her beautiful eyes shone. She was shocked and worried, but then she immersed herself in her cultivation again. The young girl only thought that Lin Tian was fighting alone now. She only thought that after cultivating diligently, she could become stronger. After becoming stronger, she could go out and help Lin Tian. In another place, the phaseless immortal sect. In this sect, many important figures were shocked. Naturally, they heard the news from the outside world. Many of their expressions changed again and again. These people were unwilling to believe that it was the Seven Luminaries Empire. The Seven Luminaries Empire was destroyed because of Lin Tian? How could this be? However, no matter how unwilling these people were to believe it, in reality, it was indeed Lin Tian who spread the news that the cultivation of everyone in the Seven Luminaries Empire had disappeared. The news was also true. This indicated that the disappearance of the cultivation of everyone in the Seven Luminaries Empire was indeed related to Lin Tian. It was indeed equivalent to Lin Tian destroying the powerful Seven Luminaries Empire. Damn it, this bastard can't be left alive. No matter what happened to the Seven Luminaries Empire, only one thing can be certain. This bastard's cultivation is not high. If this matter is really related to him, then he must have used some scheme. With his own strength, he definitely can't threaten the Seven Luminaries Empire. In a head-on confrontation, he's just a weak ant. Let's be careful and find him quickly. We must kill him as soon as possible. The few grand elders who left the sect to hunt down Lin Tian gathered together after hearing the news and gritted their teeth. On this day, in the huge Shun continent, all the forces, big and small, were shocked. It could be said that the moment Lin Tian was mentioned, their expressions would change. Then also on this day, a voice sounded again in Shun continent. Phaseless immortal sect, I, Lin Tian, will visit your sect later. The voice seemed very calm, and in the blink of an eye, it once again crossed the Shun continent's territory. That Lin Tian, he's going to the phaseless immortal sect. Are you kidding? Many of the cultivators were shocked again. As soon as this voice came out, the wind and waves were pushed up again in an instant. The territory of Shun continent was once again shaken and stirred up. Chapter 674. A genius will remember for a second, providing you with an exciting novel to read. All the cultivators in the Shun continent trembled. After hearing such a voice, many people's hearts couldn't help but beat wildly. Literature building, the Seven Luminaries Empire was just destroyed because of him, and now he wants to go to the phaseless immortal sect. You want to barge into the phaseless immortal sect alone. You want to destroy two great powers on the same day. But his cultivation is only. Many people were shocked. Lin Tian's voice came out, saying that he wanted to go to the phaseless immortal sect as a guest. However, no one was stupid enough to think that Lin Tian was really going to the phaseless immortal sect as a guest. This so-called guest was nothing more than going to the phaseless immortal sect to settle things. Let's go take a look, a cultivator said. On this day, groups of cultivators stood up and rushed towards the phaseless immortal sect. How could a small cultivator not be shocked when he publicly said that he wanted to go to one of the 6 great immortal sects, the phaseless immortal sect? The most important thing was that this matter happened after the Seven Luminaries Empire was destroyed. Everyone knew that the destruction of the Seven Luminaries Empire was related to Lin Tian, but these people did not know the details. Now that Lin Tian had shouted out that he wanted to go to the phaseless immortal sect, he would be able to personally witness the battle between Lin Tian and the entire phaseless immortal sect. So many people naturally wanted to go and take a look. Ignoring this point, even if it was just to watch the show, Lin Tian's battle with the entire phaseless immortal sect was enough to attract many people. At the same time, the few supreme elders of the phaseless immortal sect who were outside also heard the voice and were all enraged. Lin Tian, this was not putting his phaseless immortal sect in his eyes at all. Return to the sect. Make all the preparations you can. This little bastard, since he dares to come this time, I will definitely let him die without a burial ground. Let's go. A few Dao realm experts soared into the air and rushed towards the phaseless immortal sect. Not long after, these people approached the phaseless immortal sect. They saw that the outside of the phaseless immortal sect was already filled with people. Immediately, their faces turned ashen. However, they did not say anything. They only snorted and stepped into the phaseless immortal sect. As the saying goes, the law does not punish the masses. There were too many cultivators around the phaseless immortal sect, at least 1,000 of them. It was not easy to deal with them. Most importantly, they had placed all their attention on Lin Tian and were preparing to kill Lin Tian. Now, Lin Tian made them feel great pressure. The few great elders that left the phaseless immortal sect have all returned, and all of them are great Dao realm experts. If that Lin Tian were to barge in the end, what can he do? This is true. No matter what, that Lin Tian definitely has some backing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made such a sound. That makes sense, but anyway, let's wait and see. Speaking of which, will that Lin Tian really come? I think so. Many people were discussing in low voices. The sun had begun to set, and the world was gradually shrouded in darkness. Lin Tian walked into the small forest with a calm expression. He did not immediately head to the phaseless immortal sect. His steps were very gentle, as if he was a leisurely tourist. Previously, when he shouted that he was going to the phaseless immortal sect, he did not want to cause any commotion. The reason why he did this was because he wanted to use this voice to lure the great Tao realm great elders who had left the sect to chase after him back to the phaseless immortal sect. He would also lure the other experts of this lineage back to the phaseless immortal sect. From there, he would capture them all in one fell swoop. I'll give you enough time to return to the sect, he muttered to himself. Stepping into the small forest, he was not in a hurry at all. He only slowly walked in the direction of the phaseless immortal sect. Gradually, the sun completely set and night fell. Stars flashed in the sky. Outside the phaseless immortal sect, there were even more cultivators gathered. It was densely packed, and there were already thousands of people. Why isn't he here yet? The sky is already dark. Wait a little longer. Many people whispered. The sky was pitch black, and the stars were increasing in number. Soon, a full moon appeared, sprinkling down a sky full of silver light. The small forest outside the phaseless immortal sect was enveloped in a faint halo. Time passed quickly. The crowd waited outside the phaseless immortal sect. Very soon, it was the morning of the second day. The stars disappeared, the full moon disappeared, and a morning sun appeared, sprinkling down a gentle sunlight. A group of cultivators gathered at this place and waited for an entire night, but Lin Tian still did not appear. At this time, many cultivators were puzzled. He's not here yet. Could it be that he's deliberately tormenting the phaseless immortal sect? Someone frowned. It was also at this moment that someone suddenly exclaimed, "He's here!" His voice was low and deep, carrying a hint of surprise and excitement. Immediately, everyone who came here turned their heads to look. In the distance, a slender figure appeared on the horizon. His steps were slow as he walked towards this place step by step. He wore a black robe and had a delicate and pretty face. His expression was very calm. "Lin Tian," someone exclaimed in a low voice. Following that, the crowd became silent. Almost all of them held their breaths as they stared at Lin Tian. Staring at Lin Tian, at this time, all the cultivators who came here were surprised, excited. Lin Tian actually came. He had come alone. First level of immortal ascension. With such a cultivation level, why would he dare to barge in alone? This young man, some of the older generation experts frowned. In one night, Lin Tian had arrived here. He believed that it was enough time for the experts of the phaseless immortal sect to return to the sect. At this time, when he arrived at this place and saw the densely packed figures outside the phaseless immortal sect, his expression did not change at all. This was because, after he shouted out that voice, he knew that there would definitely be many people coming here to watch. After all, it was human instinct to watch the show, and even cultivators were no exception. His expression was calm as he walked towards the main entrance of the phaseless immortal sect at a leisurely pace. "He's here." Outside the main entrance of the phaseless immortal sect, a disciple of this branch shouted. The main entrance of this branch could be considered to be very majestic. It was about 20 feet tall and was completely made of strange stones. Lin Tian walked forward and quickly arrived in front of the main entrance. A few disciples of the phaseless immortal sect were guarding the edge of the courtyard, all of them holding swords and sabers facing Lin Tian, their faces slightly pale. Although they were pointing their weapons at Lin Tian, they were slowly retreating, not a single one of them daring to attack. Lin Tian's expression was calm. Her footsteps did not change. Step by step, she stepped through the door and walked straight into the phaseless immortal sect. He walked in. He directly stepped in. Many people's hearts trembled. As far as the eye could see, Lin Tian came here alone. With his cultivation at the first level of the immortal connection realm, He actually directly walked into the formless immortal sect without the slightest bit of hesitation or fear, as if he was just walking on a flat forest path. Staring at this scene, many people sucked in a breath of cold air in shock. Of course, even more people were very excited. A cultivator at the first level of immortal ascension had directly barged into the phaseless immortal sect, one of the 6 great immortal sects. Such stimulation naturally made many cultivators excited. Everyone's gazes landed in front of them as they stared at Lin Tian. At this time, Lin Tian had already walked very far away from the main entrance of the phaseless immortal sect and was a full 30 meters deep into the phaseless immortal sect. All around, the densely packed disciples of the phaseless immortal sect surrounded him, all of them holding treasured weapons and treasured sabers facing him. Clang! A loud sound rang out as the main entrance of the phaseless immortal sect closed. His path of retreat had been blocked. "Little bastard, you really dare?" A cold voice sounded. Within the phaseless immortal sect, a few old figures walked out, all of them with ice-cold eyes. There were a total of 7 of them, and all of them were at the Great Tao realm. The Tao law fluctuations around their bodies surged like a vast ocean. At the same time, even more disciples of the phaseless immortal sect rushed out and surrounded them, guarding their positions. In the middle of this, Lin Tian was very calm. He swept his gaze across the group of disciples and said in a calm voice, "Ordinary disciples of the phaseless immortal sect, I will give you a chance. Those who don't want to die, leave on your own or retreat to the side." As soon as these words were spoken, many of the onlookers outside the phaseless immortal sect were moved. At this time, Lin Tian was clearly trapped within the phaseless immortal sect and was in a worrying situation. But when she opened her mouth, she actually said such a thing. Even the disciples of the phaseless immortal sect were startled. But very quickly, everyone's eyes turned cold. "You can't even protect yourself, and you still want to give us a chance? Ridiculous. Self-righteous. Your arrogance is boundless. Today, you can only die." One by one, the disciples of the phaseless immortal sect stared at Lin Tian mockingly. These people knew that Lin Tian was very powerful, and none of them felt that they were a match for Lin Tian. Even the current #1 person of their generation did not have the confidence to fight against Lin Tian. But so what? Right now, Lin Tian was in their sect, and a few of their great Tao realm supreme elders were there. How could they allow Lin Tian to run rampant? The destruction of the 7 Luminaries' empire was indeed related to Lin Tian. However, all the disciples of the phaseless immortal sect had the same thought. Lin Tian must have used some scheme to harm the 7 Luminaries' empire. Right now, Lin Tian was standing here alone. He was only a cultivator at the first level of the immortal ascension realm. There was no reason for them to be afraid of him. Lin Tian's gaze moved and swept across the 30 or so immortal ascension realm cultivators. These people had once followed Toy Yili to the Ascension Tao sect. At that time, he and Lu Wei could have killed these people, but in the end, they did not and let them all go. The 30 or so people were all at the immortal ascension realm. At this moment, when they met Lin Tian's gaze, they trembled slightly, and their expressions were very ugly. "Young man, I'm sorry. We feel guilty, but you barge into our sect like this, we have no choice. We can only attack." Someone spoke and clasped his hands. Lin Tian's expression did not change, and there was no change in it. "Just nice." His voice was calm. That day, in the Ascension Tao sect, all of your hands were stained with the blood of the Ascension sect disciples. I let you go that day, and now I will settle the grudge of that day. P.S. Thank you, King of 3 Virtues Education, for your 1,000,000 lateral coins. Thank you, Cao. Thank you, Book Friend 6985421, for your 10,000 lateral coins. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Long want to eat lunch, and then came back to work hard on the 3rd chapter. Chapter 675. Genius 1 second. Remember, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Hearing Lin Tian's words, the expressions of the 30 or so people who had been spared in the Ascension Dao sect became even uglier. That day, Lin Tian and Lu Wuwei could have killed them, but let them go. But now, they were going to wave their butcher's knives at Lin Tian and attack Lin Tian. This was naturally not a glorious thing. The 30 or so people clenched their fists. Sorry. One of them gritted his teeth. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent and calm. There's nothing to be sorry about. There won't be any deviation in the outcome. It's just that you guys will live a little longer. The expressions of the 30 or so people turned ugly. However, their fists clenched even tighter. Then, their eyes became determined. Sorry, it was still only 2 words. However, the fighting spirit in the eyes of the 30 or so people rose. At the same time, hostility rose. Lin Tian's expression was calm. He stood calmly in the formless, immortal sect. A palm-sized divine talisman appeared in his right hand. With a chi sound, he crushed the divine talisman. A wisp of light spread out from his palm and quickly surged into his body. Umph! A cold snort sounded. The supreme elders of this lineage raised their hands. With a buzz, dense array runes appeared around the formless immortal sect, completely sealing off the surrounding space. Not even a mosquito could fly out. You're too arrogant, one of them said coldly. This was the 7th supreme elder of the formless immortal sect. At this moment, he took a step forward and pressed down with his hand, enveloping Lin Tian. The void creaked and distorted inch by inch. As far as the eye could see, a large hand covered in mist covered the sky and the sun. It carried a dense fluctuation of Dao laws and a terrifying killing intent. How is he going to block it? How? Outside the formless immortal sect, everyone's eyes widened. How could an early-stage immortal ascension cultivator resist the murderous hand of a great Dao expert? These people held their breaths. They felt that since Lin Tian dared to come here and barge into the formless immortal sect, he must have something to rely on. Therefore, at this moment, they were all staring at the formless immortal sect. At the same time, within the formless immortal sect, the disciples of this faction all had sinister expressions on their faces. He's dead. No matter how much he schemed against the 7 Luminaries' empire, he's still trash in terms of his own strength. Many people sneered. Literature-building buzz. The giant hand blotted out the sky, and the Dao laws intertwined as it descended upon Lin Tian. Your dragon burial scripture still has great uses. I won't kill you directly, the 7th supreme elder of this faction said coldly. The hazy light of the big hand descended. However, in the next moment, the expression of the person who made the move changed. The large hand that he pressed down could not descend no matter what. The divine light hand trembled nonstop. Old 7, what are you doing? The first supreme elder frowned. The other grand elders were also confused. They all looked at the 7th grand elder, not understanding why he didn't continue attacking. At the same time, even the people outside the phaseless immortal sect and the disciples of the phaseless immortal sect were puzzled, their expressions strange. The 7th grand elder who took action clenched his teeth. The large hand of divine light that reached out once again moved, descending towards Lin Tian. Rumbling sounds rang out. Unfortunately, he still could not suppress it. What's going on? This person's heart trembled slightly. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian moved. He raised his right hand and pointed with his finger. With a swoosh, a ray of light flew out like lightning. As if it had crossed through space, it instantly entered the space between this person's brows. Pooh! Blood splattered, and the large hand of divine light shattered. The person who attacked fell to the ground with a bang. His eyes were still open, but the light of life within them disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Old 7? The expressions of the other 6 grand elders of this faction changed, and they all appeared beside this person. Then, the expressions of all 6 of them changed. Almost at the same time, the spectators outside the phaseless immortal sect, as well as the disciples inside the phaseless immortal sect, all felt that the current situation of the 7th Supreme Elder who had made a move, could no longer sense the slightest bit of life fluctuations from the other party. Dead, dead, someone muttered. For a moment, everyone trembled in unison. A Grand Tao realm expert was actually killed by an early-stage immortal ascension cultivator with a simple finger. At this moment, everyone's gaze fell on Lin Tian. Shock, horror. How? How did he do it? That's a Grand Tao realm existence. Someone trembled. At this moment, even the other 6 Grand Tao realm experts of this faction couldn't help but tremble. It was just a casual finger, but the 7th Supreme Elder of the Grand Tao realm died. Even his soul couldn't escape. What exactly was going on? Lin Tian was clearly only at the first tier of the Immortal Ascension realm. How could he do such a thing with such a cultivation base? You? What did you do? The 6th Supreme Elder roared. Lin Tian tilted his head and looked over. His eyes were indifferent, and only the corners of his mouth were curled up in a cold smile. A few days ago, an old drunkard left behind a divine talisman for him before he left. He had just crushed it, and the power within had already spread throughout his body. Only he could feel the power, and it made his heart tremble. At this moment, he even felt that he could easily kill someone like the 7 Luminaries clan's old ancestor, who was at the first tier of the Immortal Ascension realm. He didn't say much. Facing the 6th Supreme Elder who had questioned him, he casually pointed a finger. Swish! A ray of light flew out, crossing space and arriving in an instant. Pooh! Unable to dodge, the 6th Supreme Elder of this faction was pierced through between his brows and flew dozens of feet away. With a bang, he smashed into a palace. Then there was no movement at all. Just like the previous person, his life force had completely dissipated. Old 6th! The other Grand Elders cried out. After finding the 6th Supreme Elder's body, they all trembled again. The 6th Supreme Elder was also dead. How is this possible? What did he do? 2 Grand Tao realm experts, just 2 fingers. How could this be? Outside the phaseless immortal sect, everyone was trembling. 2 fingers killed 2 Grand Tao realm experts, and even their souls were obliterated in their physical bodies. No, impossible. How could this be? The disciples of the phaseless immortal sect all paled. At this time, these people stared at Lin Tian. All of them were terrified, and many of them could not help but tremble. Sacrificial killing array. The 1st Supreme Elder roared. In the next moment, in the void, the array patterns that had originally appeared pulsed even more violently. Dense killing light surged wildly, pressing down on Lin Tian, twisting the void until it collapsed inch by inch. Lin Tian raised his hand and activated the Heavenly One Soul Art. A silver soul light spread out, instantly annihilating all the killing light. Then he flicked his 5 fingers, and more silver soul light intertwined and surged out in all directions. Then, in just an instant, the dense array patterns in the void pulsed, trembled violently, and returned to calmness. However, the 1st Supreme Elder of this faction directly coughed out a mouthful of blood. You cut off the connection between this old man and the sect protection array? This person looked panicked. At this time, he could no longer control the sect protection array of the phaseless immortal sect. The sect protection array no longer responded to him. Now, your sect protection array is mine. Lin Tian on Dao. The divine talisman that an old drunkard left him contained too much power. At this time, his abilities in all aspects had soared by leaps and bounds. After activating the Heavenly One Soul Art, he directly took over the sect protection array of the phaseless immortal sect. Hearing those words, the people from that bloodline all trembled. Their sect protection array had become Lin Tian's? Impossible! Don't be an alarmist. The 4th Supreme Elder of this faction shouted. Lin Tian's expression was calm. Then let's try. As soon as he finished speaking, his right hand casually formed a seal. Immediately, the sect protection array of the phaseless immortal sect shone brightly. The dense killing light fell, and with a bang, the 4th Supreme Elder who spoke was sent flying. He rolled in the distance and coughed out large mouthfuls of blood, looking extremely miserable. This time, this place, everyone trembled again. The sect protection array of the phaseless immortal sect is actually under his control. It's really become his great array. This rumor has it that he's also a formation master, but is his formation controlling technique already that terrifying? He can actually easily seize the great formation that originally belonged to someone else? Outside the phaseless immortal sect, everyone was shocked. Lin Tian dared to come here and directly walk into the phaseless immortal sect. Many people felt that Lin Tian had something to rely on and should be able to fight against the phaseless immortal sect. But now, they didn't see Lin Tian do anything special. He was still at the first level of the immortal ascension realm, but his strength had become so terrifying that he could casually kill powerful cultivators of the great Tao realm and easily seize other people's great formations. This was simply too strange, causing everyone to be puzzled. Wait! Suddenly, someone said, just now he seemed to have crushed a strange light talisman. Strange light talisman? It seems like such a thing is happening. If that's the case, I saw it before. He crushed a light talisman. Could it be? It must be that light talisman. Someone said. At this time, these people felt that if they wanted to find the reason why Lin Tian had become so strong, it could only be because of that light talisman. Inside the phaseless immortal sect, the first supreme elder and the others were shocked. It's that light talisman from before? They had naturally seen the light talisman that Lin Tian had crushed, but because they didn't feel any special fluctuations from it, they only thought that Lin Tian had used some kind of divine ability and didn't pay much attention to it. They only activated the sect's great formation at that time to prevent Lin Tian from escaping. At this moment, when the light talisman was mentioned, the few of them also felt that it was strange, and their scalps went numb. Thinking about it this way, Lin Tian's current strength seemed to have something to do with the light talisman. Is it because of that light talisman? Not far away, the fourth supreme elder of this faction, who had been swept away by the killing light, stood up and roared fiercely. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent as she tilted her head and looked over. You're asking me? With a flash of his feet, he instantly appeared in front of this person. He raised his hand and punched down. You! This person's body was torn into pieces on the spot. Blood splattered all over the air, and his divine soul also shattered. Chapter 676. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Blood splattered in the air. At this moment, the scorching sun was clearly hanging high in the sky, but everyone felt a chill run down their spines. In the blink of an eye, 3 great Tao realm existences were killed. One punch, just one punch will, death god. The crowd was terrified. Standing far away from the formless immortal sect, everyone's hearts were trembling fiercely. At the same time, the disciples of the formless immortal sect felt a chill in their hearts. At this moment, many people couldn't help but tremble. How could this be? How is this possible? Many people trembled. The fourth grand elder of their lineage had actually been killed with a single punch. At this moment, even the strongest supreme elder of this sect felt his heart palpitate. This person stared at Lin Tian, his eyes flickering. Lin Tian turned his head and looked over. He stretched out his right hand, and divine power gathered, condensing into a resplendent divine light sword. Clang! He casually slashed, and a sword light directly cut through the sky. With a puff, not far away, the fifth supreme elder of this sect was slashed into pieces by the sword. He didn't even have time to scream before his body and soul were directly destroyed. Another one, a great Tao powerhouse, already is the fourth one. The crowd trembled. In the blink of an eye, 4 great Tao realm powerhouses were killed. Lin Tian, a furious roar sounded. There were still 3 supreme elders left in this sect. At this moment, their eyes were red, and they were extremely furious. 4 great Tao realm powerhouses were actually gone, just like that. Damn it! The three of them roared, and powerful divine power fluctuations surged out from their bodies. At the same time, they charged toward Lin Tiansha. At this time, how could they still care about losing face when the three of them attacked together? Right now, for Great Tao Realm Supreme Elders had already been killed. What kind of loss was this? It was simply unbearable. Boom, boom, boom. The void trembled, flames suddenly swept out, the earth suddenly shook, and a green mist appeared at the same time. In the blink of an eye, a dense Tao law spread out and enveloped the entire space within a radius of several hundred feet. Tao of Inferno, Tao Law of Chaos, Rotting Poison Tao Law. Some of the older generation experts were shocked. A Great Tao Realm expert could control the power of a Great Tao. Even though it wasn't a complete Great Tao, and they could only control a trace of the power of a certain Great Tao, this was already terrifying enough. Ordinary powers wouldn't be able to resist it. At this time, the three of them used the power of Tao Law at the same time. Blazing Tao power burned in all directions, and even divine power could be burned away. The Tao of Chaos Earth locked down the surroundings, pressing towards the center with boundless strength. The Tao of Rotting Poison was even more terrifying, and it could practically devour everything. In an instant, Lin Tian was surrounded by three Taoist laws. How is he going to fight against these three Taos? Ordinary strength can? Someone's expression changed, but before he could finish, he was interrupted. Clang! An ear-piercing sword chime sounded, suppressing all other sounds. Facing the pressure of the three tyrannical Taoist laws, Lin Tian's movements were very simple. He just raised his hand and swung his sword. Chi! 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 Along with three soft sounds, the three Tao law powers were crushed at the same time. At the same time, the three people who attacked were forced back, and each spat out a mouthful of blood. The third Supreme Elder's heart trembled as he stared at Lin Tian in horror. You! A sword light flew over and directly shattered it. Literature building Third Elder. The second Supreme Elder of this lineage was shocked and furious. In the entire phaseless immortal sect, all the disciples, deacons, and ordinary elders were trembling. At this moment, they were completely shrouded in fear. The three most powerful supreme elders of their lineage had joined forces to activate the Tao Law, but one of them was killed in the blink of an eye. Outside the phaseless immortal sect, there was complete silence. All the onlookers were stunned at this moment. Thief! The first and second supreme elders of the phaseless immortal sect roared. With a boom, they summoned a treasured furnace from the depths of the phaseless immortal sect. This furnace was surrounded by strands of faint light. Through the faint light, one could see that the body of the furnace was engraved with densely packed rune imprints. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a peerless power that overflowed the heavens. The high-grade Tao weapon of the phaseless immortal sect, the divine fire furnace. Someone exclaimed, "Boom!" The moment the divine fire furnace appeared, an extremely terrifying aura appeared. It was as if a destructive hurricane had swept up and quickly swept out in all directions. At this moment, the first and second supreme elders of the phaseless immortal sect worked together to activate this Tao weapon, causing it to turn into a burning sun in the blink of an eye, mightily pressing down on Lin Tian. With a cracking sound, the void shattered on the spot. At the same time, blazing flames surged out from the divine fire furnace, as if they could burn everything, enveloping the surroundings. Lin Tian raised his head, a divine light flashing across his eyes. Without any scruples, his footsteps swayed, and he directly stepped towards the divine fire furnace that was pressing down on him. This, directly rush up? That's a high-grade Tao weapon. The furnace fire can burn everything. Many people's hearts trembled. You're courting death. The first supreme elder of the phaseless immortal sect gritted his teeth and activated the divine fire furnace even more crazily, causing the furnace's body to become even more terrifying. With a boom, more raging flames rushed out, burning the space until it collapsed. Lin Tian's expression was cold. He only took a step forward to approach the divine fire furnace. He held the divine light sword in his right hand and raised his left hand. A Tao diagram of the four symbols appeared and directly pressed down in front of him. A high-grade Tao weapon was very strong, but so what? In the end, it was only limited to the domain of the great Tao. Could it surpass the existence of Wujin? At this time, the divine talisman left to him by an old drunkard merged into his body. He felt that he could even easily kill a person at the first level of Wujin. How could he be afraid of a high-grade Tao weapon activated by two great Tao powerhouses? Buzz! The Tao diagram of the four symbols slowly pressed down. At this moment, with the support of the power left by an old drunkard, an incomparably sacred silver light suddenly burst out, annihilating all the divine fire in an instant. Then, almost in an instant, the Tao diagram of the four symbols imprinted on the divine fire furnace, causing the furnace to become quiet. Lin Tian grabbed it with his left hand and grabbed it in his own hand. On the opposite side, the first Supreme Elder and second Supreme Elder of the phaseless immortal sect coughed up blood at the same time and staggered back. Lin Tian pressed down with the Tao diagram of the four symbols and directly erased all the imprints related to the phaseless immortal sect on the divine fire furnace, causing both of them to suffer a backlash. At this moment, the light of the divine fire furnace intertwined and floated in the palm of Lin Tian's left hand. Very strong. Feeling the power of this divine fire furnace, Lin Tian's eyes flashed with a bright light. Not long ago, an old drunkard casually flicked his finger and destroyed the high-grade Tao weapon of the Seven Luminaries Empire, which made him feel a sense of regret. At this time, he snatched the high-grade Tao weapon of the phaseless immortal sect intact and immediately felt a lot more balanced. The high-grade Tao weapon of the phaseless immortal sect, just like that, it was taken away. Oh my God! What was that divine light talisman from before? Outside the phaseless immortal sect, everyone was horrified. The first Supreme Elder and second Supreme Elder of the phaseless immortal sect were naturally furious and rushed towards Lin Tian at the same time. Give it back to us? The two of them each displayed their super divine abilities and at the same time used their Tao law power. Lin Tian tilted his head and swung the divine light sword in his right hand, slashing out a sword beam. The second Supreme Elder of this lineage exploded, his body and soul destroyed on the spot. He raised his left hand and kept the divine fire cauldron into his sea of consciousness. Then, a four symbols Tao diagram appeared and instantly annihilated the divine ability of the first Supreme Elder of this lineage. Moreover, after this, the four symbols Tao diagram didn't dissipate. It directly landed on this person's body and sealed all the divine force in his body, causing him to temporarily lose his cultivation. With a bang, this person fell to the ground. After a little struggle, he stood up and was ready to attack Lin Tian again. However, in the next moment, his face was filled with horror. What did you do? At this moment, he could not feel the flow of divine power. He could not use his divine ability, could not fly, and could not even use the simplest martial skills. Lin Tian glanced at this person before kicking him flying over 30 m away, causing him to collide fiercely with a crimson-red rock nearby. This person slid down the boulder with his back against it. More than half of his bones were broken. Staring at Lin Tian, this person's mouth was filled with blood, and he could not get up for a long time. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. Your phaseless immortal sect master personally led more than 30 immortal realm elders and gathered the people of the Golden Flames Tao sect to head to the Emergence Tao sect to destroy the Emergence Tao sect. For that matter, we did not look for your phaseless immortal sect to reason with you. We even let go of the dozens of elders from your phaseless immortal sect who had gone to the Ascension Tao sect with you. We only killed the traitor of the Ascension Tao sect, Tuayili. We have given your phaseless, immortal sect enough face. However, not only did you not appreciate it, you even directly said that you wanted to take my life, force me out of the Emergence Tao sect, and keep sending people to kill me. Staring at this person, his expression became cruel and merciless. Back then, I once said that your phaseless immortal sect would slowly be destroyed in my hands. Now it's time. I won't kill you for the time being. I'll let you watch with your own eyes as I destroy your phaseless immortal sect. I'll kill all your disciples one by one and completely remove your phaseless immortal sect from the Shun continent. As soon as he finished speaking, the divine light in his hand shook, and the sword's ear-piercing hum swept out in all directions. With just a casual movement, a large number of phaseless immortal sect disciples exploded. The first grand elder of this lineage trembled violently, and his eyes turned red. You, stop! Lin Tian's expression was indifferent, and his eyes were cold. He directly ignored this person and swept his gaze across the 30 or so immortal realm elders of the phaseless immortal sect. These 30 or so people had followed the current phaseless sect master, Tua Yi Lai, to the Emergence Dao sect and had killed the disciples of the Emergence Dao sect. That day, he and Lu Wei had let these people go. Now, they would not show mercy. Clang! He waved the divine light sword in his hand. With one sword, 100 swords were born. The void was instantly cut apart, and huge cracks appeared, extending in all directions like a spider web. Blood splattered, and the 30 or so immortal realm cultivators he was staring at exploded in an instant. Chapter 677. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with wonderful novels to read. More than 30 immortal connecting cultivators were killed in an instant. Blood splattered across the sky, enchanting and piercing red. In Lin Tian's hand, the killing sword condensed from divine power flashed. The resentment of that day is now settled. Everyone from the formless immortal sect trembled, and many of them couldn't help but retreat. More than 30 experts, all of them at the connecting immortal realm. Among them, there were even reclusive elders at the 9th level of the connecting immortal realm. But now, Lin Tian had killed all of them with a single strike. Bastard! The first prime elder of the bloodline roared and charged forward madly. Lin Tian didn't even look at this person. With a backhand slap, he directly sent this person flying, causing him to roll more than 3 feet away. He tilted his head and looked at the other members of the bloodline. It's your turn. His voice was calm. With a move of his mind instructs, in a second, the sect-protecting formation that enveloped the formless immortal sect began to circulate, and a murderous light appeared. In an instant, an invisible killing intent enveloped the entire phaseless immortal sect. Clang! A sword cry that sounded like a real sword cry rang out. The killing light condensed into the shape of a sword and mercilessly slashed down towards the group of people from the phaseless immortal sect. Pooh! 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 The bloody light instantly exploded, one after another. It was a ghastly sight. At this moment, Lin Tian activated the Heavenly One Soul technique, causing the sect-protecting formation of the phaseless immortal sect to erupt with its strongest power in history. Dense killing lights continuously appeared from all directions and slashed down, mercilessly harvesting the lives of the disciples and deacon elders of the phaseless immortal sect. Ah! Screams reverberated in the air as panic and fear intertwined in the air. Seeing this scene, everyone outside the formless immortal sect trembled and could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The formless immortal sect's own sect-protecting formation, but it's being used. Terrifying. This Lin Tian is simply, many people were horrified. Literature building. He had seized the sect-protecting array of the formless immortal sect, and now he was using it to harvest the lives of the people of the formless immortal sect. How powerful was that? How terrifying was that? And to the people of the formless immortal sect, what kind of irony was this? No! Grand Elder, save me! Ah! Voices of fear and despair intertwined with one another. Accompanied by these sounds, bloody mist continued to explode. The number 1 great elder of the phaseless immortal sect had not died yet, so Lin Tian did not directly kill him. At this moment, As he stared at the scene and saw his disciples being killed one by one, he could not help but tremble. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared, "Stop! Stop!" Lin Tian's expression was indifferent as he remained motionless. The One Heaven Soul art circulated even faster, causing the sect protecting Grand Formation to become even more terrifying and the killing intent to become even stronger. Under such killing lights, even some half-step Great Tao experts could not withstand it. They could temporarily withstand a dozen killing lights, but they could not withstand hundreds or even thousands of killing lights. Pooh! 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 It was like a blood-red firework. In this place, there was only blood sputtering in the void, splashing in all directions. I won't be your enemy anymore. Let me go. Someone trembled as he begged for mercy. Soon after, more people spoke up. We will leave the phaseless immortal sect immediately. No, don't kill us. We are only here to cultivate. Didn't you say before that as long as we leave, or stand to the side, you won't kill us? Yes, we will leave now. I will never attack you again. The crowd trembled. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent, and he did not have the slightest reaction. However, his killing intent became even stronger. In the beginning, he had given these people a chance and did not want to kill the ordinary disciples of this faction. However, when he gave these people a chance, these people all mocked him and stared at him with killing intent. They thought that with a few Great Tao realm experts here, he was dead for sure. But now, the situation had deviated from these people's expectations. These people began to beg for mercy, saying that they were only here to cultivate, saying that they would never attack him again, begging him to show mercy, begging him to let them go. Now, would he let them go? Clang! The killing intent emitted by the sect protecting formation became even stronger, and the killing intent became even more shocking, causing the screams and cries of fear to become even louder. Blood splattered at an even faster speed. Grand Elder, save me! Stop! Save me! The disciples of the phaseless immortal sect cried for help in fear, and even some elders at the immortal ascension realm were no exception. When the Grand Elder, who was the leader of this faction, saw this scene, his old body could not help but tremble. He directly coughed out a mouthful of blood. Beast, stop, stop! At this moment, the disciples, deacons, and elders of the phaseless immortal sect exploded before his eyes. One by one, their lives were harvested before his eyes. He almost went crazy. Do you feel pain? Heartbreaking? Lin Tianling smiled. That's good. That's what I want. The incident at the Ascension Dao sect was still hard for him to let go. The phaseless immortal sect was too shameless. Clang! In this place, blinding killing light continuously hacked down. To the people of the phaseless immortal sect, this day was undoubtedly a terrifying day of calamity. The sect protecting formation sealed off all 10 directions of space, and rays of killing light continuously descended, as if they were slaughtering pigs that were being raised in a cage. No one was able to escape. Pooh! 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 Blood splattered everywhere. It was a ghastly sight. This place was filled with screams, cries for mercy, cries for help, and cries for help. Voices filled with terror intertwined and continued. In the blink of an eye, a quarter of an hour passed. At this time, the space finally quieted down. There were no more screams, cries for mercy, cries for help. There were only corpses lying haphazardly on the ground. There was only blood flowing on the ground. Dead, they're all dead. The only one left is the Grand Elder. Outside the phaseless immortal sect, someone was trembling. For a short while, Lin Tian stood in place, not moving a single step. He used the Celestial One Soul incantation to activate the sect's protective formation and killed everyone except for the first Grand Elder. This bloodline's #1 Grand Elder roared, his eyes about to split apart, almost going mad. Lin Tian, what a beast! This person roared out ruthlessly. Because of his shock and anger, he spat out blood essence. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent as he tilted his head to look at her. You asked for it. Damn it. Damn you. His god power was sealed, and his cultivation base was sealed. He was like a wild animal, lunging madly toward Lin Tian. The audience is done. You can disappear now. Lin Tian Dao. With the support of an old drunkard's divine talisman, he was now invincible. He casually waved his hand. An array of sword light swept past. With a pu sound, this person was chopped into pieces, and his body and soul were destroyed on the spot. In an instant, the space became deathly silent. This really all dead. Phaseless immortal sect, destroyed. Outside the phaseless immortal sect, everyone was trembling, looking at the corpses all over the ground in the phaseless immortal sect and seeing the blood everywhere. Many people trembled, their faces pale. After the Golden Flames Dao sect, the Xuanlong Jiang family, and the Seven Luminaries Empire, Lin Tian had destroyed the phaseless immortal sect. One person had caused the destruction of 4 great forces. Who is he? Many people were horrified. Lin Tian stood in the phaseless immortal sect and casually glanced outside. He did not care and walked into the depths of this bloodline. Not long after, he came to the place where the secret arts of this bloodline were stored. Without looking carefully, he put away all the secret arts and put them into a stone ring. In the past, the stone ring was very precious to him, but now it was different. Now he had a lot of such things, and the internal space was very large. He walked out of the area where the divine abilities and precious techniques were stored and entered this branch's armory. As soon as he opened the door, a large expanse of light flashed. Precious weapons and precious swords were laid out horizontally as dense light interweaved. He walked in and roughly glanced around. There were more than 30 immortal tools, hundreds of supreme treasures, and countless treasures. All of them were stored in the stone ring, including the treasures I got from the Golden Dao sect and the Seven Luminaries Empire. I now have more than 100 immortal tools. A glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He had mastered the weapon control technique. Later, if he used more than 100 immortal tools to display the weapon control technique, what kind of terrifying scene would that be? Speaking of which layer of the heavenly domain did this precious technique come from? From what the old man said about the 4th heaven, this technique doesn't seem to be from the 4th heaven. He whispered. When he was in the 2nd heaven, he knew that the weapon control technique is a great technique from a higher heaven. At first, he thought that it came from the 3rd heaven, but after reaching the 3rd heaven, he discovered that it wasn't the case. As for the 4th heaven, it doesn't seem to be the case. Therefore, the weapon control technique should be from the 5th heaven. The tomb in the 1st heaven, the owner of the tomb was only in the airborne realm. How could he have a complete weapon control technique? Strange. He was a little curious. After a pause, he couldn't help but shake his head. He was too lazy to think about these things now. He put away all the treasures and soon found some spirit pills and treasures. They were all quite good, so he put them away. Not long after, he came to the place where the Lingjing was stored. There were a lot of Lingjing inside. He glanced at it roughly and estimated that there were about 30,000 kilograms of them. It's just more than the 12 Dao sects, but it's nothing compared to the 3 dynasties and the Xuanlong Jiang family. He shook his head. With a wave of his hand, he put the 30,000 kilograms of Lingjing into the stone ring. After that, he searched this place for a long time, putting away all the valuable things, and then walked out of the depths. At this time, he felt that the power of the divine talisman in his body began to weaken slowly. It could only last for about a quarter of an hour. A quarter of an hour is enough, he muttered to himself. Stepping on the ground of this vein, he directly blasted down with a punch, causing the entire surface of the ground to shatter into pieces. The dragon runes on the soles of his feet flickered, and soon it spread to the underground world of the phaseless immortal sect. He saw 16 complete immortal veins, all of which were intertwined with incomparably rich spiritual light. Chapter 678. The dragon marks extended downwards. and the underground of the phaseless immortal sect was covered with 16 immortal veins. However, Lin Tian did not care about this at the moment. Right now, he had the divine talisman left behind by an old drunkard as his support, and his strength was comparable to an expert at the 5th level of enlightenment. It was naturally a very simple matter to break this restriction. Advertisement. He activated the dragon burial scripture, and the dragon marks interweaved. With a cheat sound, the restriction outside the 16 immortal veins was shattered. Buzz! He raised his hands and formed a seal at an extremely fast speed. He used the dragon burial scripture to pull the 16 immortal veins out from the underground world. Then, dense dragon marks wrapped around them. As these dragon marks wrapped around them, the 16 immortal veins gradually shrank. In the end, they all turned into an inch long and were grabbed by him. Just like that, he gave the 16 immortal veins of the phaseless immortal sect. What kind of method is this? How did he do it? Outside the phaseless immortal sect, the hearts of the crowd trembled. Those were immortal veins. Originally, each of them was 1,000 feet long, but now they were all compressed to an inch long. Lin Tian put away the 16-inch-long immortal veins and nodded in satisfaction. That day in the Seven Luminaries Empire, an old drunkard had used absolute power to compress the 20 immortal veins of the Seven Luminaries Empire into balls of light, and now he was relying on the power left behind by an old drunkard and the special divine arts recorded in the dragon burial scripture to change the shape of the immortal veins with the Tao of dragon marks. There are a total of 36 immortal veins. In addition to the 400,000 kilograms of Ling Jing, it's enough for me to step into the 2nd level of the immortal ascension realm and consolidate my cultivation. He muttered to himself. It had to be said that obtaining so many Ling Jing and complete immortal veins in such a short period of time, and being able to step into the 2nd level of the immortal ascension realm later, was truly a pleasant surprise. However, at the same time, he was also somewhat helpless. This was because his physique was too much of a waste of Ling Jing. From the early stage of the Immortal Ascension realm to the 2nd level of the Immortal Ascension realm, he actually had to consume so many resources. At this time, he was standing in the formless immortal sect. Suddenly, a gentle breeze blew past, bringing with it strands of the smell of blood. He paused for a moment, then slowly rose into the air. When he was several hundred feet above the ground, a sword completely condensed from divine power appeared in his right hand again, and he indifferently slashed down. This sword strike was very casual, but its power was shocking. After all, it was supported by the power left behind by an old drunkard. Boom! The phaseless immortal sect was greatly shaken, and in an instant it was torn apart. All the palaces collapsed at the same time, causing sand and dust to surge into the sky. When the smoke and dust dissipated, the phaseless immortal sect had completely collapsed. The originally magnificent halls and pavilions were all shattered, and there was even a raging fire that quickly turned the entire phaseless immortal sect into a sea of fire. Quick update, the website is refreshing with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. You must give me a good review. Someone shuddered. Just like that, the powerful phaseless immortal sect turned into a burning inferno. Many people's hearts trembled as they looked at the sea of fire, and then at Lin Tian in the sky. Many people couldn't help but tremble. At this moment, staring at Lin Tian, these people felt a chill run down their spines. This was simply the god of death. Lin Tian stood in the sky and swept a glance at these people. She no longer stayed here and walked into the distance step by step. Only when he was completely gone did the cultivators in this place let out a long sigh of relief. But, terrifying, someone trembled. Very quickly, everything that happened in this place quickly spread out, and in the blink of an eye, it spread throughout the entire Shin continent. He really went to the phaseless immortal sect and gave it to the Seven Luminaries Empire had just been destroyed, and before the storm had even subsided, the phaseless immortal sect had been destroyed. They were all destroyed by the same person, and once again set off a frenzy in the Shin continent. Golden Fire Dao Sect, Xuanlong Jiang Family, Seven Luminaries Empire, Phaseless Immortal Sect. He alone destroyed 4 inheritances. Some people counted carefully, and their hearts trembled violently. The history of the Shang continent was extremely long, but in such a long period of history, when had such a terrifying thing ever happened? In just 1 year, a small cultivator had destroyed 4 powerful inheritances, including one of the 3 great empires that looked down on this Shang continent. For inheritances, it was destroyed just like that. It's really, how ruthless. What's so ruthless about it? If it were up to me, I would say that these forces deserved it. That's right. If it was me, I would have done the same. Moreover, it would be even more ruthless than this. Someone said, these great powers raised by dogs and wolves, all of them are always self-righteous, thinking that they are high and mighty, that they can bully others as they wish. It's best to destroy them, uprooting them all. In the cultivation world of the Shang continent, discussions continued. In just half a day, the storm in the Shang continent had reached its climax in 10,000 years, and no one could remain calm. 4 huge inheritances had been destroyed in the hands of the same person in a year, destroyed in the hands of a small cultivator. Shock, horror. At the same time, an expert of the older generation thought of something else. The situation of the Shang continent has been completely destroyed. When this voice came out, many cultivators were shocked again. Of the 12 sects, the Golden Fire sect was destroyed. Of the 6 great immortal sects, the Phaseless Immortal sect was destroyed. The place where the dragon-seeking family established their clan was turned into a dead area. And most importantly, one of the 3 great empires that looked down on this territory, the Seven Luminaries Empire, was also destroyed. The structure that originally existed had really cracked apart. Lin Tian, some experts felt their hearts palpitate. One person had changed the situation of the cultivation world in the Shang continent for 10,000 years. How terrifying was that? On this day, while everyone in the Shang continent was shocked, they also clearly knew another thing. Lin Tian, a man who was only 20 years old, was destined to leave the strongest mark in the history of cultivation in the Shang continent. 3 days passed in a flash. Lin Tian walked on the main road with a calm expression, like a young leader, giving people a feeling of sunshine. 3 days ago, he destroyed the Phaseless Immortal sect with a divine talisman left to him by an old drunkard and killed everyone in the Phaseless Immortal sect. He felt that his hands were once again stained with blood. So just like when he destroyed the 18 strongholds of the Seven Luminaries Empire, he went to a secluded small forest and used the natural aura of the forest to wash the turbid blood chi on his body. He only walked out today. At this time, his footsteps were unprecedentedly light, and he felt that his whole body was countless times more relaxed, as if a huge boulder of 10,000 kilograms had been removed from his shoulders. Now, I can return to the Emergence Dao sect, he whispered. The Golden Fire sect, the Phaseless Immortal sect, the Dragon-Seeking family, and the Seven Luminaries Empire had all been destroyed. Now he did not have to worry about anything. He thought of Shui Yi, Ling Yun, and Lu Wuwei, and could not help but smile. Especially Shui Yi. He could finally see this girl again, this strong and weak girl who had once saved his life. Thinking of this, his footsteps could not help but quicken. He walked in a direction and headed towards the Emergence Dao sect. Soon he still had to go to the Barbarian land and the Fourth Heaven. But now, before going to the Barbarian land and the Fourth Heaven, he wanted to return to the Emergence Dao sect first. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He took a step of more than 100 feet, and the scenery on both sides quickly retreated. However, in the next moment, his body suddenly trembled, and a dangerous signal appeared in his heart. Without time to think, he stepped on the yin-yang ho and directly moved more than 100 feet away. Chi! Almost at the same time, an eerie beam of light descended from the sky where he was just now, directly shattering a piece of space. Your spiritual perception is not weak. An indifferent voice rang out from the sky. Lin Tian raised his head and saw 2 middle-aged men descending. One was wearing a black robe, while the other was wearing a green robe. Great Tao Realm? His expression changed slightly. As the two middle-aged men descended, he felt an incomparably clear fluctuation of Tao laws. It was very dense. At the same time, the black dragon on his shoulder also trembled. It raised its head slightly, and its demonic eyes revealed a solemn expression. "Who is it?" he asked solemnly. "You didn't forget the rank 7 array controller you killed in the first heaven, did you?" The green-robed middle-aged man said with an indifferent expression. Lin Tian was moved again. The green-robed middle-aged man's simple words allowed him to guess the identities of these two people. The primordial shrine. His heart trembled. When he returned to the first heaven, he killed a rank 7 array controller in the palace of the Rose Empire. The other party was from the primordial shrine, and he was the descendant of a big shot from the primordial shrine. After killing the rank 7 array controller, he had guessed that the faction behind the other party might come looking for him. He did not expect that they would really come. Staring at these two people, his expression became incomparably solemn, and he was on high alert. These two people were both in the Great Tao Realm. Next to the green-robed middle-aged man, the black-robed middle-aged man spoke. His eyes were as cold as a cold sword. Hand over the eternal killing array. When Lin Tian killed the rank 7 array controller in the first heaven, the big shot of the primordial shrine used a special method to capture Lin Tian's face and the eternal killing array. Therefore, this branch immediately sent people to the first heaven. However, at that time, as soon as the people sent to the first heaven, they were killed by the purple elves living in the dark forest across the boundless void, instantly erasing them from the world. After that, the great figures of the desolate shrine speculated that there should be a terrifying existence living in seclusion in the first heaven. Those who exceeded a certain level of cultivation might be killed mercilessly if they went down there. Hence, the great figures decided to search for Lin Tian in the higher heavens. These big shots felt that since Lin Tian controlled the eternal killing array, he was definitely not ordinary. They believed that he would definitely go to a higher heaven. Therefore, at this time, the people of this branch found Lin Tian in the third heaven. Lin Tian's expression changed. Did the primordial shrine discover that he had the eternal killing array? These two people were here to snatch the eternal killing array from him. Moreover, after snatching the eternal killing array, they would definitely kill him. Staring at the two great Tao realm cultivators from the primordial shrine, his eyes flickered. Without any hesitation, he did not say a word. He directly retreated and rushed into the distance. A few days ago, he killed great Tao realm powerhouses like cutting vegetables. However, that was because he relied on the power of the divine talisman left to him by an old drunkard. But now, the power of the divine talisman had already dissipated. How could he fight against a great Tao realm powerhouse head-on? Now escaping was the best choice. A cold light flashed in the black-robed, middle-aged man's eyes. "You want to leave?" As his words fell, this person directly stretched out his right hand. It covered the sky and mercilessly pressed down on Lin Tian. Chapter 679. The giant hand pressed down, covering the sky. Lin Tianji felt that the space around him was completely frozen. It was as if his body had sunk into a swamp, and his movements became very slow. At this moment, the giant hand was really close to him. He gritted his teeth. Helpless, he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the black-robed man's giant hand with all his might. Bang! The fist and the palm collided. Suddenly, a mighty divine light filled the sky. Lin Tianji was directly sent flying. His right hand was in pain, and there was a crack between his thumb and forefinger. Bright red blood flowed out. This made him grit his teeth again. With his current strength, it was indeed impossible for him to fight a cultivator of the Great Path head-on. Even in the physique domain that he was most proud of, a punch that he struck out with all his might would not be able to block a casual palm strike from such a figure. The gap between the realms of the two was simply too great. His cultivation is only at the early stage of the connecting immortal realm. After blocking your palm, his thumb and forefinger only cracked a little. The green-robed man's eyes narrowed slightly. He was clearly surprised. A person with eternity is indeed not simple. The black-robed man's eyes were cold. Even if he is not simple, he is only at the first level of connecting immortal. The green-robed man nodded. The two of them stepped forward and strode toward Lin Tianji. The space returned to normal. Two waves of great path-level divine power surged, causing Lin Tianji to feel a chill down his spine. He directly transmitted his voice to the black dragon. In the next moment, the black dragon unfolded its demon body and carried him into a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, it rushed into the distance. This is a dragon? The two middle-aged men's eyes narrowed. After it, the black-robed man said coldly. Divine light flashed around their bodies, causing the space to tremble slightly. With a single step, they covered hundreds of feet. Lin Tianji rode on the black dragon's head. The scene on both sides retreated at an astonishing speed, and the wind whistled. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out, and a terrifying sword chi slashed past his ear. Boom! The sword chi did not sweep past him, but it cut the ground in front of him into pieces. Broken soil and broken rocks flew in all directions. Lin Tianji looked back. The green-robed man and the black-robed man had caught up. Although they were still some distance away from him and the black dragon, the distance was gradually shrinking. Stop! The green-robed middle-aged man said indifferently. Lin Tian didn't say anything. The black flood dragon's speed was even faster. It turned into a black bolt of lightning and once again opened up a large distance between them. The cyan-robed middle-aged man's eyes narrowed. Rumor has it that the flood dragon's body contains a trace of the true dragon's bloodline. Could it be that it also possesses a trace of the true dragon's legendary speed? This speed is sufficient to be comparable to an ordinary Grand Dao expert. It's no big deal. The black-robed middle-aged man's voice was ice cold. This person raised his hand, and dozens of sword chi flew out, cutting open the space on the spot. Lin Tianji felt his scalp go cold. This kind of dense sword chi was no longer something that could be dodged by speed alone. Without hesitation, he directly propped up a furnace. Dong! The sword energy landed on the cauldron and immediately produced a deafening roar as if a divine drum had been struck. This treasure furnace was something he had obtained from the phaseless immortal sect. It was called the Divine Fire Furnace and was the strongest treasure weapon of the phaseless immortal sect. At this moment, under the activation of his divine power, it completely blocked the powerful sword chi that the black-robed middle-aged man swept over. High-grade Dao weapon. The cyan-robed middle-aged man was moved. In fact, even the cold and indifferent black-robed middle-aged man revealed a strange expression, and a flash of light quickly flashed across his eyes. Good stuff. This trip was worth it. The cyan-robed middle-aged man revealed a smile. Like the black-robed middle-aged man, he attacked, releasing dense sword light towards Lin Tianji. The black-robed middle-aged man also attacked together, and his attacks became stronger. The refinement of a Dao weapon was very troublesome and required a lot of divine materials. Moreover, the refinement technique was not easy for ordinary people to control. Therefore, many Dao realm experts did not have their own Dao weapons, and these two people happened to be the same. Now, seeing a Dao weapon of a sect here, and it was even a high-grade Dao weapon, how could these two not be moved? The big shots of the desolate shrine only wanted them to bring back Lin Tianji and the eternal killing array. As for the other things on Lin Tianji, they did not say much. In other words, the other things on Lin Tianji could be theirs. Take the initiative to hand them over and hand over the eternal killing array, and you will suffer less physical pain. As the cyan-robed middle-aged man attacked, he said indifferently, "You should know very well that with your cultivation, you can't escape from the two of us. Is that possible?" Lin Tianling said. He used the divine furnace to block in front, and the black dragon increased its speed again, flying away with Lin Tianji on its back like a black bolt of lightning. "You don't know what's good for you." The cyan-robed middle-aged man shook his head. This person raised his hand, and a thick sword light streaked across the sky, crushing the void on the spot. Beside him, the black-robed, middle-aged man attacked even more ruthlessly. Every sword chi contained extremely terrifying killing power. Lin Tianji used the divine furnace to block in front, activating dense flames that burned the void and collapsed a lot to block the sword light. However, with his current cultivation, even though he had a high-grade Dao armament in hand, it was still impossible for him to face two great Dao realm experts head-on. Even though he managed to block the sword lights that the two of them had sent out, he had suffered quite serious injuries. Cough! He coughed up blood, feeling as if his internal organs had cracked a little. That's right. A mere early-stage, immortal connecting realm cultivator actually managed to barely block our attacks with just a single Dao soldier. The cyan-robed middle-aged man said. As he spoke, this person attacked even harder. A large amount of divine light spun past, closing in from all directions. The black-robed middle-aged man was the same. His attacks were even more domineering. Lin Tianji used the divine furnace with all his might. At the same time, the black dragon fled into the distance while channeling thick demonic power into his body, helping him activate this high-grade Dao weapon to resist the attacks of the cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man. For a time, astonishing divine light shook each other. Sword light, raging flames, and palm shadows continued to surge in this void. Bang! After a while, Lin Tianji and the black dragon were injured at the same time. They were sent flying by the cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man's attacks. Lin Tianji gritted his teeth, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. Boom! The black dragon sped up again. The black murderous aura turned into the power of thunder. With a loud boom, it fled into the distance again. The cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man were both true Great Path powerhouses. They couldn't fight head-on at all. Now they could only run. Can you escape? The black-robed middle-aged man's voice was cold. The cyan-robed middle-aged man's expression was still indifferent. He said without any emotion, "Leave a trace of life and search your sea of consciousness." The two of them stepped forward and attacked at the same time. The power of their attacks was even more terrifying. Boom! 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 The divine light and the killing light intertwined, causing the space to collapse inch by inch. Lin Tian and the black dragon blocked the attacks as they flew. Soon, 6 hours had passed. Bang! Once again, the man and the dragon were sent flying. They both coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. Now, Lin Tianji's clothes were stained with blood. The black dragon was in a similar situation. Many of its scales had fallen off. It was seriously injured. Keep running. Let's see how long you can run. The cyan-robed middle-aged man said. The black-robed middle-aged man's eyes were cold. He was like an unsheathed killing sword, ruthless and cruel. Clang! Clang! The two of them raised their hands, and another large wave of killing light pressed down on Lin Tianji and the black dragon. Lin Tianji used all his strength, activating the divine furnace to block in front of him. The divine furnace in his hand was extraordinary. He and the black dragon weren't weak either. However, the cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man were too strong. They seemed to be above the third level of the Great Path realm. In the previous 6 hours, even if he and the black dragon used all their strength to activate the divine furnace, they couldn't stop the two of them at all. They were constantly injured. If it wasn't for the black dragon's speed that was comparable to an ordinary Great Path realm existence and could maintain a certain level of intensity with the two of them, he and the black dragon would have been suppressed and killed by the two of them long ago. Dong! The sword chi slashed by the two of them landed on the divine furnace, and a rumbling sound like that of a drum rang out again. Lin Tianji relied on the black dragon's rich demonic power to activate the divine furnace with all his strength, barely blocking the attacks of the two of them again. However, he also trembled violently. The blood in his body surged, and a mouthful of blood surged up his throat again. Moreover, at the same time, because the black dragon was still transferring demonic power to him, it was also shaken. Its speed instantly slowed down. The cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man strode over. One of them had an indifferent expression, while the other's eyes were cold. Another wave of eerie sword light flew over. Boom! 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 The sword light landed on the divine furnace, and a rumbling sound reverberated continuously. Lin Tianzi used all his strength to activate this treasured furnace. His body trembled, but his eyes were very cold. A wisp of cold light flashed past. Using this high-grade Dao tool to block in front of him, he stood on the Black Dragon's head and transmitted a message to the Black Dragon. I will stop them alone. You leave now and leave in another direction. Don't follow me anymore. The cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man were too powerful. They were at least at the third heaven of the great Dao. With his and the Black Dragon's current strength, it was impossible to stop them even if they worked together. Even with their speed, they could not escape from their pursuit. Under such circumstances, he did not want to be a burden to the Black Dragon. If the Black Dragon left him, he believed that the cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man would definitely not chase after the Black Dragon. They would only chase after him. After all, their target was him. The Black Dragon growled and rejected directly. Lin Tianyi had already guessed that the Black Dragon would not agree, but he was still very touched. He took a deep breath and continued. This time, listen to me. Leave! He stared at the cyan-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed middle-aged man who were chasing after him. The corner of his mouth was stained with blood, but his eyes were extremely cold. I still have other means. They might not be able to suppress me. If you follow me, it will be difficult for me to use them. It will affect me. The Black Dragon growled again. Its voice was dull. Trust me. Lin Tian transmitted his voice. He opened his right hand, and 3 stone rings appeared. In here, there are all the abhijanas and secret techniques of the Golden Fire Dao Gate, the Phaseless Immortal Sect, and the 7 Luminaries Empire. There are also most of the artifacts and elixirs of the 3 major factions. There is also about 250,000 kilograms of Lingjing. After you leave, go to the Emergence Dao Gate and hand it to Lu Wei. In the future, you can cultivate in the Emergence Dao Gate. It is suitable for you. As he spoke, another stone ring appeared in his hand. There are 20 light pearls in here. They are the 20 immortal veins under the 7 Luminaries Empire. After you reach the Emergence Dao Gate, let Lu Wei help you slowly refine them. After that, spend a month or so to comprehend the Great Dao nomological laws. You should be able to step into the Great Dao realm. Chapter 680. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with interesting novels to read. Lin Tian originally wanted to enter the second tier of the connecting immortal realm with hundreds of thousands of Lingjing and dozens of immortal meridians, but now he changed his mind. Lu Wei valued him and trusted him, passing the position of Ascension Sect Master to him. Now he was the Master of Ascension Sect. Since he was the Master of Ascension Sect, he naturally had to consider his own sect and subordinates. As for the Black Dragon, it had been following him recently, during the Immortal Ascension Tribulation, and now when he was being chased by the black-robed middle-aged man, it had protected him with its life. This was a great kindness and righteousness. Although it was because of him that he did not kill it, he still had to do something. He could not always let the Black Dragon sacrifice for him. 20 immortal meridians were given to the Black Dragon. In the future, the Black Dragon would enter the Great Virtue Realm with these 20 immortal meridians. It would be of great help to Ascension Sect, Shui Yi, Ling Yun, and the rest. As for the 500,000 Lingjing, the other mystiques, and the Baodan, he gave them to Ascension Sect. This could greatly increase the strength of Ascension Sect, allowing them to reach the level of the 6 major immortal sects in a short period of time. Even reaching the level of the 3 great dynasties should not be a big problem. This was far more valuable than him entering the second tier of the connecting immortal realm. After all, he had just entered the second tier of the connecting immortal realm, which was only a small step in the same realm. His battle strength would not increase by much, and it would not undergo a transformation like when he entered the connecting immortal realm from the Zephyr ninth tier. As for the Ascension Sect strength, it was very likely that it would be a great help to him in the future. Now, other than the Divine Fire Cauldron, he only left the immortal weapons of more than 100 sects and 16 immortal meridians for himself. The immortal weapons were used for the weapon controlling technique, while the 16 immortal meridians were used for other things. Go! He transmitted his voice to the Black Dragon again. He threw the 4 stone rings to the Black Dragon, and a gentle force shook out from his body, pushing the Black Dragon more than 100 feet away. At the same time, he leaped into the air, stepping on the yin-yang puppet, and rushed in another direction. He could not really judge the outcome of escaping alone like this. However, he was very sure of one thing, and that was that as long as he and the Black Dragon separated, the Black Dragon would definitely survive. The void trembled and rumbled. At this moment, he seemed to have turned into a bolt of lightning. His speed was so fast that it shocked the black-robed and green-robed middle-aged men. This speed was not much slower than the Black Flood Dragon's peak speed. Chase! The azure-robed middle-aged man bellowed. At this time, as Lin Tian had expected, the two of them did not care about the Black Dragon at all and directly chased after Lin Tian. Their target was Lin Tian. The Black Dragon roared and shook its body in an attempt to chase after them, but it was already too late. Previously, it had carried Lin Tian and fled, so its injuries were far more severe than Lin Tian's. In addition, it had been helping Lin Tian activate the Divine Fire Cauldron with its demonic power, so its current speed was actually less than half of its peak speed. In the blink of an eye, it had lost sight of Lin Tian and the other two. Lin Tian stepped on the yin and yang liang and flew in a random direction. He didn't know what was in front of him. He looked back and saw that the black-robed and green-robed middle-aged men had caught up with him. The distance between them was quickly closing. "Give up. You can't escape," the green-robed middle-aged man said. The black-robed middle-aged man raised his hand and once again swept out a large amount of sword light, which even carried some faint fluctuations of the Great Tao. Lin Tian imprinted his divine sense on the fairy weapons of more than 100 sects that he had left behind. Then, he used the weapon control technique to activate these fairy weapons. Together with the Divine Fire Cauldron, he barely managed to defend himself. At the same time, the yin and yang liang was activated to the limit and flew away. More than 100 sects fairy weapons are displayed at the same time. This is the weapon control technique? An An in the early stage of connecting immortal actually has more than 100 sex fairy weapons and knows the weapon control technique. This is really interesting, really interesting. He deserves to be the one who carries the eternal sword. A glint flashed across the black-robed and green-robed middle-aged men's eyes. Then they attacked even more fiercely. For a moment, the sword lights that fell on Lin Tian became denser and more terrifying. These sword lights fell on the Divine Fire Cauldron and the fairy weapons of more than 100 sections. From time to time, they would make a shocking sound, causing Lin Tian to spit out blood again. From time to time, he would be injured by the rebound force. However, his eyes were still cold. The yin and yang liang under his feet did not stop. Light flickered in his right hand, and lines of dragon patterns quickly entered the stone ring on his right hand. In this stone ring, there were 16 small dragons, which were the 16 immortal veins under the phaseless immortal sect. At this moment, the dragon patterns intertwined, and strands of them all entered the stone ring, entangling the 16 immortal veins. Clang! The sword hummed and slashed continuously from behind. Lin Tianyi flew on the yin and yang liang while using the dragon burial scripture to guide the dragon patterns into the stone ring. With a special method, he quickly engraved them on the 16 immortal veins. Now, he was relying on these 16 immortal veins in the literature building. With the more profound dragon burial scripture, he could detonate the 16 immortal veins and use that destructive power to destroy the black-robed and green-robed middle-aged men. Because the black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man were very strong and had a high spiritual perception, in order to succeed in this attack, he could only detonate the 16 immortal veins in a very short distance. In this way, he would also be affected. At that time, he wanted to protect himself with the divine fire furnace. However, the power of the divine fire furnace was limited after all. It was very difficult for it to protect him. If it also protected the Black Flood Dragon, perhaps both he and the Black Flood Dragon would die. Therefore, this was one of the reasons why he asked the Black Flood Dragon to leave. He flew all the way. In the blink of an eye, he had fled far away. At this time, the black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man finally approached him, surrounding him in the middle. "Have you run enough? Surrender now," the green-robed middle-aged man said. With a buzz, the man raised his hand, covered the sky, and pressed down on Lin Tian. At the same time, the black-robed middle-aged man also made a move, reaching out to grab Lin Tian. "Yes, I've run enough." Lin Tian's voice was cold. The stone ring on his right hand flashed, and 16 small dragons flew out. As soon as they appeared, they emitted a terrifying, destructive power. At this moment, the black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man approached him. His dragon technique was also completed. "You!" The black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man's expressions changed at the same time. Even though they were great Tao powerhouses, they still felt a great threat at this moment. Lin Tian quickly put away the immortal artifact beside him into his body and controlled the divine fire furnace to protect himself. The dragon patterns intertwined all over his body, and at the same time, he also propped up the reincarnation diagram of the king's territory. "Explode!" He formed a seal with both hands and said coldly. As soon as he said that, the 16 immortal veins immediately exploded, and the destructive power turned into a terrifying wave that swept in all directions. Boom! In this place, the void collapsed and the ground sank. Within a radius of more than 1,000 feet, almost all tangible things were destroyed in an instant, and the terrifying light drowned everything. After an unknown period of time, the light finally dissipated. In the void, Lin Tian's body was stained with blood. The dragon patterns on his body had dissipated, and the reincarnation diagram had shattered. There were also dense cracks on the divine fire furnace, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Blood seeped out of the corners of his mouth as he panted heavily. His face had become extremely pale. "Damn it!" he roared furiously. The black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man landed at the side. Their bodies were tattered, and their bones and internal organs could be seen. Lin Tian's expression changed. He had now entered the immortal realm, and his control of the dragon burial scripture was many times stronger than when he was in the airborne realm. Now, he had detonated a total of 16 immortal veins with the dragon burial scripture that was far more powerful than before. The destructive power should be able to destroy everything. However, the black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man actually survived that destructive power. "Bastard!" The two of them let out a low roar, their eyes full of anger. The two of them who were in the center and had to endure the destructive power of the explosion of the 16 immortal veins burned a wisp of their essence at the critical moment to cast their great mystical abilities. That was how they barely survived. However, even so, they still suffered an unimaginable blow. At this moment, their auras were extremely weak. Moreover, many cracks had appeared on their life essence. "Later, I'll make sure you suffer a fate worse than death." The black-robed middle-aged man gritted his teeth. The two Great Path powerhouses' damaged bodies were slowly recovering. They took a step forward together and approached Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. Two large hands reached out at the same time, covering all directions as they grabbed at Lin Tian. Lin Tian's face was pale. He circulated his divine power and activated the divine cauldron to resist. Ka! At this moment, A crisp sound suddenly rang out. A huge silver rift suddenly appeared in the air, and a shocking suction force was emitted in the blink of an eye. A space tunnel? The destructive power just now, coupled with our divine power, created such a tunnel in the chaos. The expression of the black-robed middle-aged man and the black-robed man changed. Almost at the same moment, the two of them were shocked. A huge suction force swept past and directly pulled the two of them into the rift. Lin Tian was slightly further away from the silver rift. He endured the pain and tried to get away, but in the end, he did not succeed. The void distorted, and a terrifying suction force swept over from the front. In the blink of an eye, he was also swallowed into the silver rift. In an instant, his vision turned dark. All around him, strands of distorted power intertwined. Lin Tian knew that he was inside the void and did not dare to move. He forced himself to wait quietly. After an unknown period of time, the light in front of him flickered, and the darkness gradually dissipated. A powerful force threw him out of the boundless darkness. Almost at the moment his feet landed on the ground. Not far away, two cold, murderous intents landed directly on him. Little Ant, the black-robed middle-aged man, and the green-robed middle-aged man had just fallen out of the space tunnel. They did not have time to size up their surroundings when they saw Lin Tian fly out as well. Their gazes immediately became extremely cold, and they closed in on Lin Tian in unison. Lin Tian gritted his teeth and quickly retreated. Boom! At this moment, a thunderous boom rang out nearby, causing the ground to tremble. The black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man were shocked when they heard the sound. They could not help but stop and look toward the source of the sound. Then, the two of them revealed a shocked expression at the same time, and they could not help but tremble. Lin Tian tilted his head and looked, and his expression changed immediately. Over 30 meters away, a vast and boundless ocean stretched out horizontally. It was as if the Milky Way in the sky had descended here. Along with the rolling waves, it was suffused with a terrifying fluctuation that caused one's soul to tremble. This is the dividing point between prosperous continent and the barbarian land, the true forbidden land of death, the border of the Milky Way. He was shocked. Chapter 681. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with wonderful novels to read. The third heaven was divided into two territories, the prosperous continent and the barbarian land. They were separated by a vast heavenly river. This heavenly river was known as the true forbidden land of death in the third heaven. Even the great virtue realm powerhouses would find it difficult to survive if they entered it. Boom! The waves churned, one after another, and all of them shot up over 1,000 feet into the air. This scene was simply horrifying. Lin Tian retracted his gaze slightly. 100 feet away, not far from the edge of the heavenly river, there was a stone tablet engraved with 4 big words. Do not approach it. These 4 words were simple, but the shape was strong. Although it seemed to have existed for a very long time, there was still a faint trace of Tao flowing in it. Obviously, it was left behind by at least a Wuxian powerhouse. In the past, a powerhouse of the older generation left these 4 words to warn the future generations not to come to this place. Lin Tian said in his heart. With a solemn expression, he directly retreated. The boundless heavenly river in front of him made him feel a sense of horror. He couldn't stay in this place. On the other side, the black-robed and green-robed middle-aged men were also retreating. Obviously, they also felt the horror of this place. However, in the next moment, the 3 of them changed their expressions. The surrounding space seemed to be isolated, and they couldn't retreat. What's going on? The green-robed middle-aged man shouted in a low voice. The black-robed middle-aged man also looked around. He tried several times to get away from the heavenly river, but it was useless. The space behind him was sealed by an invisible and terrifying force. Lin Tian naturally felt his heart palpitate. He remembered a saying that circulated in the prosperous continent. The heavenly river is 1,000 feet long, and there is no way out. The meaning of these words was clear. The space within 1,000 feet of the heavenly river could be entered, but there was no way to get out. It was precisely because of this that in the prosperous continent, many cultivators were willing to go to the God Burial Mountain Range, the Immortal Demon Ancient Range, and the other 3 ominous regions to search for treasures, but no one was willing to come near the Heavenly River. Even the great virtue powerhouses were no exception. Damn it! Lin Tian cursed. That space tunnel. How did it bring him here? This place was a true forbidden land for life. On the other side, the black-robed middle-aged man and the green-robed middle-aged man gritted their teeth. After several failed attempts to retreat, their gazes finally fell on Lin Tian again, and they pressed forward. The azure-robed middle-aged man said in a low voice, "Immediately hand over the eternal killing array." Both of us are 7th-order array manipulators. After we comprehend the eternal killing array, we will break through this place and leave together. At that time, we will not kill you. At this time, the 2 of them were also worried and anxious. The air in this place was really too cold. They felt a great threat. They kept feeling that if they stayed any longer, they would die here. At this time, in their eyes, the heavenly river in front of them was like a ferocious death god, as if it could reap their lives at any time. Although Lin Tian was also anxious, when he heard the middle-aged man's words, he couldn't help but sneer. Hand over the eternal killing array, break through this place, and leave together. Not killing him? Do you think I'm an idiot? He used the divine flame furnace to block in front of his chest. Divine radiance circulated, and flames rushed out. Such an action undoubtedly caused the black-robed middle-aged man and the middle-aged man's faces to sink. You don't know how to appreciate favors. The azure-robed middle-aged man said coldly and directly grabbed at Lin Tian. At the same time, the black-robed middle-aged man also made a move. There was a faint fluctuation of Tao law intertwined. Lin Tian gritted his teeth and urged the divine flame furnace to meet the attack. Previously, when he detonated the 12 immortal meridians, although the black-robed middle-aged man and the azure-robed middle-aged man were seriously injured and on the verge of death, he himself was also greatly affected. At this moment, the 2 of them were still far stronger than him. He summoned the divine flame furnace while thinking of a countermeasure. Boom! The rumbling of the waves resounded once again. Numerous waves that were over 300 m tall seemed to want to surge into the sky, shaking the ground to the point of shaking. It caused Lin Tian and the other 2 to be unable to stand steadily. The attacks they unleashed were all forcefully blasted apart and vanished. As far as the eye could see, the Milky Way seemed to be a sleeping, primordial, ferocious beast that had suddenly awakened. An extremely terrifying aura intertwined as waves of more than 100 feet in height rushed up densely. It was as if the Milky Way was about to rise into the sky. Seeing such a scene, Lin Tian could not help but feel his scalp go numb. This scene was really too terrifying. Not only him, but even the black-robed middle-aged man and the azure-robed middle-aged man, who were in the Great Path realm, also changed their expressions and felt a chill down their spines. Boom! Another roar sounded. Waves of more than 100 feet in height shook the sky. Then, more than a dozen waves directly pressed towards this place, causing the 3 of their expressions to change drastically. Damn it! The azure-robed middle-aged man could not help but curse angrily. Unfortunately, cursing was useless. The monstrous waves fell, covering all the space within a radius of 100 feet. With a thump, the waves really fell, causing the ground to let out a loud sound. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them were drowned in the waves at the same time. Lin Tian used the divine flame furnace to protect himself. Even so, he still felt a bone-piercing chill. The water of the Milky Way seemed to come from hell. It was frighteningly cold. Moreover, at the same time, what chilled his heart even more was that after the waves of the Milky Way fell, the water surged. There was a strong force nurtured in it, and it forcefully swept him into the Milky Way. This caused his heart to beat wildly. That place was the Milky Way, and there were countless dangers hidden in it. Without any hesitation, he directly supported all his means to resist this invisible force. However, What chilled him even more was that the force contained in the waves was too terrifying. He could not resist it at all. He could not block it at all. In just an instant, he was directly dragged into the range of the Milky Way, and he was in the midst of the rolling waves. This caused his heart to turn cold. He really wanted to curse out loud. Damn it! An angry roar sounded. Not far away, the black-robed middle-aged man and the azure-robed middle-aged man roared and struggled. They were also swept into the Milky Way by the waves. At this time, both of them looked very miserable. Lin Tian originally wanted to laugh out loud when he saw the two of them so anxious and flustered. Unfortunately, he really couldn't laugh. At this time, he vibrated his divine power and used the divine flame furnace as an attack. He rushed towards the edge of the Milky Way, trying to escape. Boom! The Milky Way shook. Waves surged, shaking the sky until it trembled and suppressed all directions. Lin Tian's expression changed, and he hurriedly changed the divine flame furnace from attack to defense. Then, at the next moment, he was swept by a strong force, and he was sent flying far away. When he stabilized his body and raised his head to look, the edge of the Milky Way was already out of sight. The familiar angry roar sounded again beside him. Like him, the black-robed middle-aged man and the azure-robed middle-aged man were also swept to this place. They dodged repeatedly in the air, avoiding the other waves that rushed up from the bottom of the sea. These waves were very terrifying. If they were swept up, they might be directly dragged to the bottom of the Milky Way. At that time, they would really be dead. Hand over the eternal killing formation and the high-grade Tao weapon. Suppress him directly and seize them, the black-robed middle-aged man and the azure-robed middle-aged man said. As great virtue realm powerhouses, the two of them had extraordinary spiritual senses. At this moment, when they were swept into the Milky Way, they could clearly feel the threat of death. It was far stronger than the uneasiness they felt on the shore of the Milky Way, causing their souls to tremble. They made their move again, activating their powerful formation control technique and pressing toward Lin Tian. At this moment, their thoughts were the same as when they were on the shore of the Milky Way previously. They wanted to suppress Lin Tian and seize the eternal killing formation and the high-grade Tao weapon. With their strength, they might be able to rely on these two to leave this place. Boom! Right at this moment, a python-like ferocious beast with red scales all over its body suddenly rushed out from the churning depths of the water. Just its head alone was as big as a house, and it was intertwined with an extremely terrifying cold aura. The place where this python-like ferocious beast rushed out just happened to be close to the black-robed middle-aged man. It directly opened its bloody mouth, revealing eerie sharp teeth, and tried to swallow the black-robed middle-aged man. The black-robed middle-aged man was horrified. He had not expected this at all, and he did not even have time to dodge. Pooh! The ferocious beast swooped over and directly bit the black-robed middle-aged man's body into pieces. Then, it swallowed him with 2 mouthfuls. The azure-robed middle-aged man turned pale with fright. Mu Luohan. Mu Luohan was the black-robed middle-aged man's name. At this moment, the azure-robed middle-aged man's face turned snow-white. After shouting these 3 words, he hurriedly retreated while trembling, avoiding that python-like ferocious beast far away. Not far away, Lin Tian also felt a chill on his scalp. Although the black-robed middle-aged man was severely injured, he was still a great Tao realm elite, after all. But now, he had actually been swallowed in an instant. He suddenly recalled what Ling Yun had said to him. In the Milky Way that bordered the prosperous continent and the savage lands, there were many ferocious beasts that could easily swallow great Tao realm elites. Boom! The Milky Way surged, directly interrupting his heartbeat. The surface of the Milky Way became even more turbulent. Large waves surged up, and at this moment, they were all about 100 feet tall. In comparison, these waves that were over 100 feet tall were far less astonishing than the waves that were over 100 feet tall from before. However, when these waves that were over 100 feet tall descended, Lin Tian felt as if his entire body had directly fallen into a 10,000-year-old ice cellar. This was because there was a ferocious Milky Way ferocious beast in these large waves. They either had scales, fins, or a single horn. Each of them emitted an extremely ferocious aura, as if they were great ferocious beasts of destruction that had charged out from an ancient demonic realm. There were a total of over 100 of them. How could this be? The azure-robed middle-aged man was directly horrified. Roar! Over 100 ferocious beasts roared, once again stirring up shocking waves. Their demonic eyes were either demonic red, dark green, or dark blue. All of them were intertwined with ferocious colors, and their auras were horrifying. Little ant, quickly give me the divine fire furnace and eternal killing formation. I'll activate and use them. The azure-robed middle-aged man shouted loudly, charging towards Lin Tian. With this move, he immediately encountered trouble. In the surroundings, over 100 ferocious beasts turned their heads as if they had seen a living and jumping food, and they all pressed over in unison. This scene scared the azure-robed, middle-aged man out of his wits on the spot. No, stop, In the blink of an eye, the azure-robed middle-aged man was torn into pieces, and dazzling blood dyed a large area of the sea red. Lin Tianji felt his body turn cold. While over 100 ferocious beasts were fighting over the azure-robed middle-aged man, he directly used the divine fire furnace to protect himself and stepped on the yin and yang hua to escape into the distance. At this moment, in this vast Milky Way, he had already lost his sense of direction. Now, he was just fleeing in a random direction, only wanting to escape from the sight of these ferocious beasts. Roar! A ferocious roar sounded, and a ferocious beast turned its head to stare at him. It directly charged over, causing a huge wave to surge into the sky. Chapter 682. The waves surged. Lin Tian looked back, and his scalp went numb. Behind him, a ferocious python-like beast that was dozens of feet long pounced. Its monster body rolled up waves. It was still far away, but he felt a terrifying, murderous aura. He gritted his teeth, and the divine furnace swept out a divine light. The yin and yang loon was even faster, shuttling through the heavenly river like lightning. Roar! The ferocious python-like beast roared. It directly shattered the divine furnace's murderous aura and instantly closed in. Lin Tian's expression changed. He blocked the divine furnace in front of him, and strands of divine power poured in. Dongs! The ferocious python-like beast whipped the divine furnace with its tail, and it directly made a thunderous sound. Lin Tian coughed up blood. Together with the divine furnace, he flew away like a scarecrow. He only felt that all the bones in his body were broken. He used all his strength to stand in the void above the heavenly river, gasping for breath. The blood in his mouth dripped into the heavenly river bit by bit. Roar! A roar sounded. In the distance, the waves rolled, and the ferocious python-like beast pressed down again. At the same time, behind him, the ferocious beasts that appeared before pressed down together. Their terrifying ferocious aura could split heaven and earth. Lin Tian's heart beat wildly. He turned around and fled. Unfortunately, his current state was too weak. Moreover, this was the heavenly river. How could his speed compare to the ferocious beasts that originally lived in this part of the heavenly river? In the blink of an eye, he was caught up again, and their sharp teeth bit at him. Go away! He gritted his teeth. The divine furnace protected his body. With a hum, he used all his strength to support the reincarnation diagram and pressed down on the ferocious beasts. However, the ferocious beasts didn't care at all. They roared loudly and directly pressed down. With a crack, the reincarnation diagram shattered on the spot. Lin Tian coughed up blood again and flew away. After detonating 16 immortal meridians, he was also greatly affected and severely injured. Now his combat power was less than 40% of his peak. The power of all his techniques was greatly reduced, and he couldn't stop these terrifying, ferocious beasts at all. Roar! The ferocious beasts roared together. Bloody, murderous aura intertwined in the air. Dense black light rushed from the ferocious beasts and pressed down. Lin Tian pushed the divine fire cauldron to the limit, blocking the streaks of black light, and his aura decreased bit by bit. Loud rumbling sounds rang out from time to time. The 100 or so ferocious beasts stirred up this space, causing it to be restless. The Milky Way boiled, and waves rolled up one after another, drowning Lin Tian from time to time. He coughed up blood repeatedly, and his essence, qi, and spirit were weakened to an extremely low level in the blink of an eye. Damn it! Lin Tian fled with all his might. He stepped on the yin-yang hua and flashed continuously. He only fled into the distance and did nothing else, because there was nothing else he could do. Boom! Gradually, the heavenly river began to boil again. Waves that were more than 1,000 feet high surged up, as if they were going to shatter the heavens. Lin Tian was in such a situation. He had to run away from a group of ferocious beasts and the waves of the heavenly river. He was in a sorry state, and his aura was weakening bit by bit. Finally, he became as weak as a candle flame. Boom! Another boom rang out, and a huge wave surged up, finally drowning him and sending him directly into the heavenly river. In an instant, the ice-cold seawater completely drowned him. Lin Tian was shocked and angry. He struggled with all his strength, wanting to rush out. However, he found that he had really reached his limit now, and it was difficult for him to rush out. At the same time, he was in the ice-cold heavenly river. The bone-piercing cold made his entire body cold. He felt that his hands and feet had become stiff and difficult to move. Even his vision had become blurry. I won't die, he was shocked and angry. However, even so, his vision became more and more blurry. He was surrounded by the water of the heavenly river, and his consciousness seemed to be slowly being sucked away. His body could not move, and he could only roar and struggle in his heart. The seawater shook and rumbled. Ferocious beasts appeared all around him. They were all as big as small mountains, and they rushed toward him from all directions. 3,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 1,000 feet, 800 feet, 500 feet, 300 feet. In the blink of an eye, the group of ferocious beasts was only 3 feet away from Lin Tian. Their bloody and murderous auras intertwined as they bit at Lin Tian at the same time. It was also at this moment that a rainbow-colored divine light rushed out. It was incomparably gentle. In the blink of an eye, it isolated the surrounding water of the heavenly river, forming a rainbow-colored divine light ball that was about 10 feet in diameter. It wrapped Lin Tian's body in it. More than 100 ferocious beasts suddenly trembled. They were like mice that had seen a cat. They trembled and revealed a look of horror. The rainbow-colored divine light lingered around Lin Tian's body, dragging Lin Tian's body. It did not float up. Instead, it slowly descended toward the bottom of the boundless heavenly river. More than 100 ferocious beasts trembled as they stared at this scene. Their instinctive fear made them not dare to move at all. The rainbow-colored divine light flashed. It was gentle and pure. Lin Tian's vision was blurry, but it did not mean that his consciousness had disappeared. It was not that he could not see at all. At this moment, he was aware of what was happening around him. In his sea of consciousness, the divine sword had moved. It overflowed with wisps of rainbow-colored divine light. Not only did it protect him, but it also shocked the more than 100 ferocious beasts. None of these ferocious beasts dared to come closer. This made him feel as if he had just walked through the door of death. If the divine sword had not moved, he would have been dead for sure. The rainbow-colored light flashed. It wrapped around his body and moved on its own. It seemed very slow, but it was not, because in just an instant, he had lost sight of more than 100 ferocious beasts. The rainbow-colored light is moving on its own? The consciousness of the divine sword? He frowned. Where is this going? The divine light penetrated his body and protected him, making him feel warm. The wounds on his body healed at a rapid speed. In the blink of an eye, he was mostly healed. At this moment, his vision had truly returned to normal. He could clearly see his surroundings. The rainbow-colored divine light wrapped around him. He was not simply descending toward the bottom of the heavenly river. At the same time, he was also moving toward the far east. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. During these 3 days, the rainbow-colored light wrapped around him. He did not know where he was moving toward. During this process, Lin Tian saw even more terrifying, ferocious beasts in the heavenly river. Among them, there were even beasts whose bodies were more than 500 feet tall. The aura they exuded was so terrifying that it was almost like the existence of the Nirvana realm. Just one look was enough to make his heart palpitate. Where am I going? Lin Tian frowned. He scanned his surroundings. More than a dozen ferocious beasts passed by. After seeing the rainbow-colored light around his body, they all trembled violently. He had already gotten used to this over the past few days, so he did not show any strange expression. The rainbow-colored light wrapped around him as he roamed in this heavenly river. He was moving toward the east. Just like that, another 3 days passed. On this day, the rainbow-colored light wrapped around Lin Tian. It was as if he had arrived at the bottom of the heavenly river. This caused Lin Tian to see a boundless darkness. It was as if it could swallow everything. Then, almost at the same time, Lin Tian felt a tremor in his sea of knowledge. The divine sword in it was buzzing and trembling. More rainbow-colored light rushed out from the sword body, like ripples spreading in all directions. This kind of light didn't just spread in his sea of knowledge, but really spread out. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding water of the heavenly river was pushed away, revealing a vacuum area with a radius of thousands of feet, dispelling all the darkness at the bottom. Below, there was a pile of rocks, very ordinary. A fist-sized rainbow-colored light was lying in the pile of rocks. It was bright, sacred, and crystal clear. Lin Tian's body trembled slightly and suddenly showed a look of surprise. This rainbow-colored light, he was too familiar with it. It was the same as the rainbow-colored light he obtained in the demon burial valley of the first heaven and the sword tomb of the second heaven. This is the sword's soul fragment of the divine sword. At this time, he finally understood why the rainbow-colored light had been wrapping him in the heavenly river. It turned out that it had sensed the fluctuations of the sword's soul fragment in this place. It's actually at the bottom of the heavenly river. No wonder I couldn't find it after searching for so long in the Shun continent. Lin Tian's eyes flashed with light. In front of him, in the pile of rocks, the fist-sized rainbow-colored light flickered, like a child crying out in joy, echoing with the divine sword in his sea of knowledge. He didn't hesitate and stepped to the side of the rainbow-colored light. He stretched out his right hand, and the rainbow-colored light on the pile of rocks flew straight to him, buzzing in his chest. Then, the rainbow-colored light circled around him, directly entering the sword mark in his right hand, passing through his body, then entered his sea of knowledge in the blink of an eye, came to the side of the mysterious iron sword, and fused with it. Boom! In the blink of an eye, an earth-shattering divine power swept out, turning into a rainbow-colored beam of light that rushed out from his body, directly penetrating the heavenly river and into the thick clouds above the heavenly river, dyeing the sky in this place with a rainbow-colored halo. In his sea of knowledge, the divine sword vibrated, and gradually, the sword's body became brighter, with more mysterious Tao patterns flashing. Lin Tian had seen these Tao patterns before, but when he saw them again now, he was still shocked because these Tao patterns were too profound, and he couldn't understand even a trace of them. The divine sword let out a soft hum again. After the sword's soul fragment fused with it, suddenly a dense rainbow-colored light surged out of the sword, spreading to every corner of Lin Tian's body. Lin Tian was shocked and immediately felt the extremely dense spiritual power fluctuations. He felt that the spiritual power contained in the rainbow-colored light was comparable to millions of pounds of lingjing. This surprised him. This was a gift from the Sword Soul, and this gift could definitely let him reach the second tier of the Immortal Ascension realm. Taking a deep breath, he quickly calmed himself down, then immediately sat down cross-legged in this place, quickly guiding the rainbow-colored light into his divine power, and began to refine it at the same time, using the divine power to refine his body. After one's cultivation entered the Immortal Ascension realm, there were two main points of cultivation. First, refine the divine power, making it purer. Second, absorb the spiritual power of heaven and earth, and use the divine power to reconstruct the body. When the divine power was truly refined, and the body was reborn 9 times, then the spiritual sense and divine consciousness would undergo a huge transformation and be able to sense the existence of the Great Path. Then one could comprehend the Great Path precepts and enter the 6th realm, the Great Path realm. Chapter 683. Strands of 7-colored divine light floated in his body, flowing quietly like a small stream. Pinbooknet. Lin Tian calmed his mind and focused, guiding the 7-colored light that was full of spiritual energy into his divine power, crushing the impurities in his divine power bit by bit. At the same time, he guided some of the 7-colored halo and strands of divine power into his flesh and blood to reforge his physique. This level of body forging was a basic preparation for comprehending and carrying the laws of the Great Path in the future. Divine light lingered in his body, and his essence, energy, and spirit were slowly rising. Lin Tian Wei closed his eyes and focused on cultivating silently. Just like that, 6 hours passed quickly. 6 hours later, with a boom, a gust of wind suddenly blew around Lin Tian, instantly sweeping away all the rocks around him. There was a very shocking aura contained in it. Second tier connecting immortal. Lin Tian opened his eyes, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. At this time, looking inside his body, he could clearly feel that the divine power in his body had become more crystalline and pure, and much more vigorous than before. As for his physique, it had naturally become stronger as well. However, it had only become slightly stronger. Most importantly, when he used his divine sense to observe it from the inside, he noticed that his flesh and blood now carried a trace of divinity and intelligence. A new physique forged with divine power for comprehending and carrying the laws of the Great Path is indeed a little different from before. He thought to himself, there were still strands of 7-colored light floating in his body. Lin Tian closed his eyes again and relied on the remaining 7-colored light in his body to slowly refine it, spreading it evenly to every corner of his body to consolidate his current cultivation. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, another 2 hours had passed. 2 hours later, Lin Tian's aura stabilized, and his cultivation of 2nd tier connecting immortal was completely stabilized. He opened his eyes and nodded to himself. Now, it's time to think about what cultivation method to choose after connecting to immortality. He muttered to himself. Cultivation methods were different from martial skills, divine powers, and secret techniques. Simply put, cultivation methods were the foundation of cultivation, while martial skills, divine powers, and secret techniques were the moves used in battle. Before reaching the Ascension Plane, his cultivation method was known as the 4 Extreme Scripture, which was a combination of body refinement techniques and cultivation methods. However, as a body refinement technique, the 4 Extreme Scripture could be cultivated to the end of the path of cultivation, but as a method, it could only be cultivated to the end of the airborne realm. Now that he was already at the Ascension Plane, he needed to choose a method after that. This was because with a suitable cultivation method, the flow of divine power would be smoother. It would be of great help in future battles. The reason why he hadn't chosen a cultivation technique when he'd just entered the Immortal Ascension realm was because he was thinking about what to choose. Now, the complete ancient scriptures he had mastered were the Medicine Codex and the Dragon Burial Codex, both of which were arts of the ancient celestial lords. Both ancient scriptures contain cultivation methods for those who reach the celestial ascension realm. During this period of time, he had been comparing them and hesitating on which one to cultivate. Which one should I choose? He frowned. The Medicine Codex and the Dragon Burial Codex. No matter which one it was, the cultivation methods for those who reached the later stage of the Ascension realm were extraordinary. Each had its own merits. As such, he didn't know how to choose. For a moment, he was rather hesitant. At this moment, in his sea of consciousness, the divine sword shook slightly. An ray of light spread out once again. This ray of light flickered slightly. Then, it suddenly turned into golden runes that leaped out like firebirds. In the blink of an eye, they covered every corner of his sea of consciousness, dancing around his sea of consciousness. They were blazing, bright, and somewhat dazzling. Lin Tian suddenly trembled as an obscure feeling appeared in his heart, causing his eyes to involuntarily widen slightly. Heart Sutra of the Sun? He couldn't help but be a little stunned. In his sea of consciousness, the dense golden runes moved again, turning into rays of blazing light of the sun and fusing into his sea of consciousness. Suddenly, he couldn't help but tremble again. God leads the 5 viscera, passes through the 6 viscera, and lives forever with the Tao. At this moment, the essence of the sutra appeared in his heart. The golden runes that fused into his sea of consciousness turned into rays of golden light, forming a divine power Tao diagram in his sea of consciousness. It carried with it a sense of vicissitudes, distant, and vastness. Lin Tian's heart raced, and his hands trembled slightly. Heart Sutra of the Sun. This is the Sun, Heavenly Lord's cultivation method. Boom! Golden light shot into the sky like a divine sword, as if it was going to dye the entire bottom of the Milky Way golden. The golden runes formed a Tao diagram that flowed with divine power. It was ancient and profound, as vast as the universe. At this moment, Lin Tian seemed to hear someone preaching the sutra in his ears. Then his essence, energy, and spirit became stronger. Sun, Heavenly Lord, the Heart Sutra of the Sun. This is it. He clenched his fists slightly. Just by slightly comprehending it, he felt that in terms of cultivation methods, the Heart Sutra of the Sun could be called the number 1. He took a deep breath, and the divine power in his body trembled. He circulated it according to the essence of the Heart Sutra of the Sun. The Heart Sutra of the Sun was only a cultivation method for the late stage of immortal ascension. It didn't contain any killing divine powers. At this moment, he circulated the Heart Sutra of the Sun seriously. The divine power in his body trembled, and the silver divine power gradually turned golden. A faint, golden light overflowed from the surface of his body. Following that, his essence, energy, and spirit became slightly stronger. Divine light flashed, and the golden light outside his body became thicker and brighter. In the end, the golden divine light wrapped around his body, making him look very majestic. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. On this day, he stopped cultivating, and the golden light outside his body slowly sank into his body. He used his divine sense to examine his body and discovered that his divine power had completely turned into a brilliant golden color. It was obviously much more powerful and vigorous than before. Moreover, the flow of his divine power had become more than 10 times smoother. It felt like it would never end. What a great Heart Sutra of the Sun! His eyes were shining. After cultivating the Heart Sutra of the Sun for 3 days, his body was completely compatible with this cultivation method. He could already make it circulate on its own. Although he was surprised that the divine sword in his sea of consciousness had the Heart Sutra of the Sun Lord, he didn't care much about it. After all, the divine sword had always been very mysterious. His 4 extreme scriptures, Yin and Yang Hua, and formation control technique all came from the divine sword. The divination divine art, the medicine encyclopedia, and the dragon burial scripture all came from the divine sword. Now, he suddenly felt that it was very normal for the divine sword to have the Heart Sutra of the Sun. This sword, Is it really just a simple primordial chaos heavenly treasure? He suddenly frowned. When he was in the second heaven, Bai Qiu explained to him that only weapons that had reached the level of primordial chaos heavenly treasure could give birth to a weapon soul. At that time, he thought that the divine sword in his sea of consciousness belonged to the level of primordial chaos heavenly treasure, but now he was a little uncertain. He always felt that the divine sword in his sea of consciousness didn't seem to be just at the level of primordial chaos heavenly treasure. This divine sword was too mysterious and extraordinary. Forget it, let's not worry about it for the time being. In the end, he shook his head. It was useless to think about these things now. It was useless to think too much about it. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking sound was heard. At this time, the divine sword had completely sunk into the bottom of the sea of consciousness and became completely quiet. The water of the heavenly river that had been separated from the surroundings began to quickly converge towards the middle, rumbling. Lin Tian was slightly moved. It's time to leave. Without hesitation, he propped up a divine light curtain, which shone with golden light. At the same time, he stepped on the yin and yang hua and rushed up directly. Boom! At this moment, he almost pushed the yin and yang hua to the extreme and suddenly jumped up like a golden lightning. The water of the heavenly river rumbled and pressed down, rolling up a whirlpool. The divine sword no longer overflowed with power. Lin Tian directly summoned the divine fire cauldron, using this high-grade Dao weapon to protect his body, and quickly rushed up to the heavenly river. During this process, he appeared to be very careful and maintained his speed at the peak. After 10 hours, a faint light came from above, and he could already see the swaying surface of the heavenly river. He was slightly happy, but he was not careless. He urged his speed again, and in the blink of an eye, he rushed out of the surface of the heavenly river and came to a place 100 feet above the surface of the heavenly river. He stood there and looked from this place. The surroundings seemed very quiet. The surface of the heavenly river was very peaceful, and there were no monstrous waves like before. It was like a peaceful spring. He paused for a moment and quickly flashed in a direction. In the blink of an eye, he soared above the heavenly river for a full day and night. During this period, without the protection of the divine sword, he was almost in danger several times, and he was in a sorry state. It was also on this day that the shadow of the river bank suddenly appeared in front of him. This made him ecstatic. He pushed the yin and yang hua to the extreme, and golden light surged around his body. He turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed to the shore. Boom! A ferocious beast rushed out. It was more than 200 feet long, and its body was covered with black spikes. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at him. Lin Tian's expression changed. He moved 100 feet to the side and avoided the attack of the ferocious beast. Then, he took a few big strides and reached the shore at the edge of the heavenly river. After reaching the riverbank, he took a few steps forward before he stopped and looked behind him. The ferocious beast that had rushed out from that place let out a low roar. It stared at Lin Tian in a sinister manner before it slowly disappeared into the heavenly river. Lin Tian let out a long breath. Once again, he realized how terrifying the heavenly river was. He was already at the edge, and there were still such terrifying, ferocious beasts. He shook his head and stopped paying attention to the heavenly river. He began to look around. As far as the eye could see, this place was very barren. The ground was dry and cracked, and there were brown rocks everywhere. This doesn't seem to be the bank of the heavenly river when I was thrown out of the space tunnel, he muttered to himself. He muttered to himself, and then shook his head. The heavenly river was endless, and he didn't know how long it was. He escaped from the heavenly river, so how could he appear at the bank when he fell into the heavenly river? Shaking his head, he didn't stay in this place and went straight away. Not long after, he was about a few hundred feet away from the heavenly river. He didn't encounter the invisible barrier and resistance at the bank at the beginning, which surprised him. However, it was a good thing to be able to walk out. He naturally wouldn't think about how he could walk out of the heavenly river so easily. That would be asking for trouble. He rose into the air and walked even further away. He couldn't see the heavenly river anymore, and there were mountains around him. These mountains all towered into the clouds, grand and magnificent. However, there weren't many trees in the mountains, and they all looked very strange. The leaves were like needles, giving people a very sharp feeling. Shuncontinent, there's such a place? He frowned slightly. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.